your full Royal Rumble review, and Monday Night Raw is coming up in just a minute, and boy, do we have a lot of content to get through today. Over about 2.5 hours with my co-hosts as I brought on Mary Grater, Zach Perez, and Anthony DeMarco to cover the entire Royal Rumble show from top to bottom, the women's Royal Rumble match, the men's, all the matches that happened, including the pre-show, and then, of course, touching on the big events that happened on Monday Night Raw with, of course, Randy Orton's attack on Edge. So you're not going to want to miss this one. This is a marathon show, guys. You may want to break this down into, just a couple of days, unless you have some significant time to get through this. But this is one you're going to want to listen to. It's definitely the longest show in the history of this show, but it is worth listening to as we cover all bases. And you get all perspectives, and we didn't always agree on everything, which is a good thing. So stay tuned for your full Rumble review and Monday Night Raw thoughts right after this.
Welcome to the WWE Podcast, the most passionate and authentic wrestling analysis on the web. We've got you covered with every Raw, SmackDown, and NXT show, giving you a no bullshit opinion. We know you love wrestling. We do too. So let's get this show underway.
And that's the bottom line. What? 'Cause Stone Cold said so.
Welcome, guys, to the WWE Podcast. Huge show today. Tonight, or today, depending on when you're listening to this. All co-hosts on board. And we have a full Rumble review for you, including the Edge return, of course, headlining the Royal Rumble news. Drew McIntyre, you could argue, is also kind of in that top spot, winning the men's Royal Rumble match. Brock Lesnar being eliminated by Drew McIntyre. We covered everything, every angle that you probably could in terms of the Royal Rumble outcome and where we could be going into WrestleMania, potential WrestleMania matches. Who Charlotte Flair could be challenging, right? I mean, she said on Raw that she was going to face a champion. Well, hint, there are 3 championships for the women. Keep that in mind. So we really covered everything that you could probably imagine. I'm sure we've missed some stuff, but it really was a very thorough review of the Royal Rumble, and you got different perspectives from 4 different people on the Rumble, and of course the Monday Night Raw after the Rumble, which really felt like a WrestleMania Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania, didn't it? It felt huge, but great show. You guys are going to want to keep this on a kind of a pause and play and repeat and continue, because this is a long show. This is 2.5 plus hours of content, and that's a good thing if you guys like long shows. And so maybe we'll continue to do this kind of like a pay-per-view roundtable post show type of deal. I know other big podcasts have that. I'm not trying to rip off the name from anybody, but that's truly what it would be, and what this was. We were just shooting just talking about the pay-per-view and giving our thoughts on it, and went around the invisible table that we had, and everyone got a turn to talk, and it turned out very well. And I really hope that we were able to do this again, and maybe mix up some co-hosts and bring other people on, and maybe have a discussion with different groups for different pay-per-views. I don't know. We'll see. This is kind of a trial run. I've never had this big of a group of co-hosts to discuss wrestling, but it's always a blast. And boy, 2.5 hours goes super quick when you talk wrestling. Anyway, guys, thank you for joining me. This is the WWE Podcast. You can join me every day. Every single day, this show has a new show. A new one comes out every day, and it's not always by me. It's by our lovely co-hosts, or by our hosts with Chris, who does NXT, or with Zach, who does AEW, or Aiden Willis, our newest member to the show, who will cover Monday nights and give alternate perspectives on the current product. Aiden is coming to us, and I'd like to welcome, and I hope you guys give him a listen as well. He had a Royal Rumble prediction show, and also had his own thoughts on if WrestleMania should be a 2-day event. So that was published on our feed just a couple of days ago. Actually, no, it was published yesterday. I'm losing track of time. It is very late and past my bedtime right now. But with that being said, welcome him. Give him a listen. Give him a like. Give him a follow. Subscribe to this feed if you would like to continue to hear him, Chris, Zach, Mary, Ashley, Anthony, all of the entire team here on the WWE podcast. So the team's growing. It's a good thing, and this is now an officially a daily show. It's insane, right? It's nuts, but that's what this is now. So, all right, guys, let's not waste any time. Let's get to the good stuff, right? Let's get to Mary. Let's get to Zach. Let's get to Anthony, and of course, let's get to myself as we talk about the Royal Rumble and the Monday Night Raw after. I'll be back tomorrow with part 2 of the Stone Cold versus The Rock wrestling nostalgia as we look at WrestleMania 17, one of the greatest WrestleManias of all time and one of the greatest men events of all time, of Stone Cold versus The Rock for the WWF Championship. Stone Cold turns heel. You're going to get all my thoughts on that. So part 2 is tomorrow. You're not going to want to miss that. And then on Thursday and Friday, NXT, AEW, Saturday and Sunday, we are back with your weekend review. So a lot to cover as we just go full steam ahead into WrestleMania season. This is certainly going to be a busy one. It's going to be a noteworthy one. We've already got a massive return, one that gave me chills to the bone, and I've seen about 20 times. And I'm telling you, that Edge return was something that I will never forget. We all heard rumors of circulating that he's coming back, that he's, been cleared to compete. And even knowing that, still hearing his music and hearing the crowd reaction, that was a Stone Cold return type of reaction. Seeing Edge's face come out, the look in his eyes when he came out is really what told the story, and it was just amazing. Everything about that was just magic. It was damn magic seeing Edge come back and vindicate himself, and he looks in amazing shape. He's just I can't say enough about the return. It was just damn brilliant, and obviously having Drew McIntyre win, well, you'll hear our thoughts about that as well. So I just wanted to touch on that. All right, well, guys, let's get right to it. Let's get to the audio, get to the conversation with all 4 of us, and wrestling talk, which is what you're here for. So, guys, I will talk to you soon.
Who's it gonna be?
You think you know me?
No way. Oh my! You gotta be kidding me. The Rated R Superstar! Edge is here!
That is, guys, my favorite moment in WWE in the last, 5-10 years. Probably since the CM Punk promo that happened in Vegas. That was the moment for me. Welcome, guys, to the Royal Rumble and Raw review show. I've been really looking forward to having this conversation with you guys. I've been holding a lot of stuff in, as you guys have for the last 2 days with the last 2 shows. And we now have Anthony DeMarco, we have Mary Grater, and subbing in for Ashley this time around is Zach Perez. Guys, welcome to the show. It's awesome to have everybody here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to be here.
Absolutely glad to be here.
So, guys, I'm just going to ask you right off the top. Mary, I'll start with you. What were your overall thoughts of the Rumble and Raw? Well, what did you give it a thumbs up? Thumbs in the middle, thumbs down? Where were you for just as a whole?
Well, starting with the Rumble, I think it's the best Rumble that I've seen since I started watching wrestling again back in 2011, 2012. It's up there too. I don't know if it's the greatest Rumble of all time. I'm not saying that, but the card was super solid. I wasn't really happy with the outcome of the Women's Rumble, but the Women's Rumble overall was super good. And then, they delivered on the Men's Rumble, and even all the matches, the only one that was kind of was the Bayley match, which I didn't really expect that much from it. I expected the outcome, but in general, it moved. It didn't like lag, and it seemed like it was a solid card overall, in my opinion. As far as Raw goes, it was a good follow-up Raw. I mean, things happened. They started building storylines going to WrestleMania, but I mean, it was a decent Raw. It wasn't terrible in any means, but you know, I think it depends on the person and what they're paying attention to and the storylines that they're invested in. So I didn't have any problems with Raw last night either.
Zach, what did you think?
Yeah, overall, I think that the Royal Rumble was a great card. It's definitely one of the better Rumbles that I've watched in a long time, and it really hit on all the right spots for me for what I feel like the Royal Rumble should be. You know, it had a good amount of surprises, good matches in between to break up the Women's Royal Rumble and the Men's Royal Rumble, and I think that ultimately the decisions they made really made a lot of sense. I was really happy to see them kind of go the right direction and give it to Drew McIntyre. As much as I would have kind of liked to see Edge take his way all the way through the Rumble, I did like the idea of having it end up with Drew McIntyre, Claymore, Lesnar, and I just thought a lot of the big moments were done so right, and I thought they did a brilliant job of kind of showcasing the best of what the Royal Rumble can be. So I was definitely really happy with it, and I like to see that they're continuing things along on Raw with Edge still coming back, and even seeing MVP back too was nice to see on Raw. So a lot of cool things happening in WWE, very retro feels.
Anthony?
Best Rumble, hands down, in probably 15 years. The last Rumble I could compare to as good as this is 2005 when Batista won it. But yeah, just great booking decisions across the board. Every match was enjoyable for the most part. And the Rumble itself, like, you know, that's the best possible course of action you could have taken with Brock Lesnar being first. It told a story. It was like almost a tale of two Rumbles. The interaction between Brock and Drew with the ultimate elimination of Brock, I've rewatched about 5 or 6 times. The pop was amazing. They built Drew McIntyre to be a beast. They swerved me at the end. I was convinced it was going to be Roman Reigns, but I was hoping for Drew McIntyre turning babyface. And then continued on Raw. They planted some seeds with McIntyre and Brock being official for WrestleMania. Now we have this Edge and Randy Orton thing. And what can you say about the Edge return? I haven't heard a pop that big since The Raw came back in 2011. And to be honest, this one may have been bigger because this was for an actual match. So I got to tip my hat to WWE. That was the best pay-per-view in easily the last 10 to 15 years.
It's crazy. I mean, it felt like WrestleMania to me. It felt like I just came off WrestleMania, and the Raw from last night felt like a Raw after Mania, except it was a Raw after the Rumble. And I don't know if it's because they're starting to move to stadiums for the Royal Rumble, and rightfully so. That Edge entrance, I'm serious. Like those are moments that remind you why you're a wrestling fan. Those are the moments that you look back on, and like when you get goosebumps. And I was laying in my bed, and my son and my wife were asleep, and I had my headphones on, and I hear Edge's music, and like I jumped up, and I'm like, I had to hold in my yell. And because if obviously I did, I would have caught hell for it, because then I would have woke up the entire family. But that's how emotional I felt about it. Even though I heard rumors and there was some strong speculation, you just still never know. And hearing that for me was one of those moments that, like, I'm not kidding you. And I've watched this like 20 times of his introduction back into the Rumble. And when you see Edge's eyes when he's coming down the ramp, that's really what tells the story to me. It's as if he is coming full circle, that he's back, and that all of the emotion in the build and what was taken away from him 9 years ago is coming full circle. There's so much emotion there in those few seconds of that camera shot of him coming down the ramp. It was awesome. The rest of the card, I really enjoyed the top to bottom. You could say the Bayley match was a little bit subpar. It kind of was. I mean, I guess in comparison, especially to the rest of the card, even the pre-show with Sheamus and Shorty G, right? I mean, we can discuss that in a few moments as well. But and Andrade too. Andrade retaining the United States Championship, even though he got a 30-day suspension, and we can talk about that as well. I loved this Royal Rumble. Like you said, this may have been WWE's best pay-per-view in a decade. That's insane to say, but it really may have been.
I totally agree. Going back to the Edge stuff real quick, there have been rumors for months that he got cleared and stuff, and I loved how they did it where, sometimes when a surprise entrant comes in, they kind of like have a pause, there's nothing, nobody's music hit, but they hit it right away. And that place just exploded. And it wasn't even like, oh, this superstar is back. We're super excited about it. Like, everybody was just genuinely happy for him because when he retired, you saw how heartbroken he was. Same thing happened with Daniel Bryan, but even more so with Edge, just the way that he had to go out. He was champ and he was forced, and they told him he would never wrestle again, and he had serious injuries. And that shows you how far the medical field has come, I mean, as a whole. But like you're saying, when they closed up on his face, and you could see the tears welling in his eyes because he couldn't believe that he was there. He couldn't believe that he was there, and he couldn't believe that he got that reaction, even though I don't understand why he wouldn't think he would get that reaction. I mean, Edge is the best. He's one of the best that, has come in the ring personality-wise, and everything that he's done for the tag team division and as a champion and pushing, the envelope. But it was just one of those surreal moments, like you say, when this is why we watch. And you could just see the raw emotion in his face, like just taking it all in and trying not to like get up and caught and be like, okay, I got to go in there and show that I still got it, which he did. I mean, he was in the Final Four. I mean, how awesome was that? But it was one of those moments when you go, this is why I'm a wrestling fan, because I'm actually happy. I feel his happiness right now because this is his dream. And even though I've never been a wrestler, like, I can understand if something was taken away from me unexpectedly and not on my own terms, and I was able to get it back, and I busted my ass to get it back. It was just a phenomenal moment, and I loved how they executed it. It was amazing.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, too. I think that was one of those moments where you could kind of feel him looking into the lens of the camera as if he was looking into the eyes of all of the fans, and to have him kind of experience that not only for himself, but to experience it with everybody in the audience like that, it was very powerful, and I think that his emotion conveyed a lot through the camera lens, and it just made for one of those huge... you'll go back and watch moments, and I feel like I've watched him in the TLC matches with the Hardy Boys and the Dudley Boys a million times. Now I'm going to end up basically wearing out my phone screen watching this video so many times. It's just one of those surreal moments where you really feel like it's a great experience having been a wrestling fan for a long time and having watched his journey to get there. You just felt a part of it.
Well, what makes it so special in my mind is because you had the Edge return, and it was amazing. One of the best returns of all time. Everyone exploded, but it wasn't just the Edge return that made the Rumble what it was. I can't stress enough how amazing of a booking decision I think booking Drew McIntyre to win the Royal Rumble was. Up until maybe 2 years ago when Shinsuke Nakamura won, WWE was not on a great run with Royal Rumbles, picking Triple H and Batista as Roman Reigns as past winners that were often rejected by the crowd. But now, they pick a guy who the crowd is clearly behind, who has a lot of untapped potential. The women's Royal Rumble was fantastic. Maybe the outcome could be debated a bit, but the match itself was great. I loved The Fiend versus Daniel Bryan. I thought that told a good story. The follow-up on Raw was great. So even though Edge's return was just fantastic, it didn't completely make the show. It was nice that we didn't solely have to rely on Edge coming back. That just was like a cherry on top.
Yeah, I agree. The fact is that Drew McIntyre was the right choice, and I got a little nervous at the end, and certainly flashes of 2015 came rushing back for Roman Reigns with the reaction he got. I mean, rightfully so, eliminating Edge and everything. And I had that feeling that if WWE puts Roman Reigns in the final few, that he's going to get that reaction. And lo and behold, he did. And I think that putting Drew McIntyre over was the correct choice. And I didn't pick him. I did not. I mean, I was wrong. And I thought there was a chance. I thought he was a dark horse. But honestly, for the last few months, he's kind of been under the surface, kind of a tweener. And he won the big triple threat match on Raw. And that was really the only ground he had to stand on. And then got RKO'd by Randy Orton the next week. So to me, there wasn't a whole lot of signals that, yeah, this is who we're going with. And so I didn't think that they would pull the trigger, but I thought if they did, that the crowd would respond positively. And my God, did you hear the reaction when he eliminated Brock Lesnar? As you had said, Anthony, that really was a tale of two rumbles. And you had Brock Lesnar dominating the beginning of the match, which I actually did think would happen, which makes sense because whoever eliminates Brock would then would get a huge rub from that. That would point the direction of, okay, it's probably going to be Brock versus whoever eliminates him, which many people thought, and it was a great story. People were getting pissed off. Oh, my God, this is the worst Rumble ever. I saw the tweets. People are going nuts. I'm like, do you know what's going to happen here? They're building to a moment. They're building to whoever eliminates Brock is going to be that guy. They're gonna be that person that faces Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. That's what they're building to, and people are getting genuinely angry. I thought it was brilliant, and the pop that he got for eliminating Brock Lesnar was probably rivaled Edge's entrance. I mean, it was that loud. People were going nuts, but it was a great story, great ending. It really may have been, and I know that it's simply because it's the most recent thing sometimes is the most vibrant thing, so you think it's the most intense. But I guess sitting here on January 28th, 2020, I would say that may have been in my top two, or maybe the top Royal Rumble I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it was brilliantly booked from top to bottom.
I mean, I don't know that because you're saying like going in retrospect. It's definitely top 10, top 5. I totally agree with that. And to go off of what Anthony said, everything he said was right. It wasn't that just Edge returned. Drew McIntyre was the person that I said should win. I said Brock or Roman was going to win because I thought that was the safe bet and WWE logic. But I said Drew should win because you need to make new stars, and he is believable for Taming the Beast. The story, everybody getting mad about Brock don't understand Brock. These are the people who don't understand the concept between them doing a part-time champ. And it goes back to the old days that this is the guy. Brock has been the dominant champion for, 5 years plus now? He loses it for like a couple of months, and then he gets it back. I was laughing the whole first of the Rumble because I love when Brock goes in there and just destroys people.
Yes.
I think it's funny. It's hysterical, but it gives him legitimacy. We can go back to when Brock came back and they almost screwed it up by him losing to John Cena and Triple H. They almost messed it up. But since those two losses, he has been the most dominant guy in the men's division as a world champion, and he should be because look at him. And he's a collegiate athlete. You have to make him believable. There's not a lot of believable stuff like that anymore. And I've always said the person who's going to take out Brock has to be believable that he's going to take him out. It can't be a Mysterio. It can't be it can't be a CM Punk. Like somebody like Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe and a Drew McIntyre who is just a slab of man. I hate to be that guy is just he's huge and he's beefy and that's what he is. It is believable to me that Drew McIntyre can be the guy to take out the Beast. And it was just smart booking. And on the other side, they saved Roman's butt because if they did have Roman win again, he would have gotten booed out of the building. And they already made that mistake. And they've worked so hard to get Roman back to a point where he still gets mixed kind of, responses and stuff, but he's really not getting booed anymore. So there was nothing for Roman. If Roman would have won, he wouldn't have benefited at all. Like Roman can get a title shot. It's kind of like what my argument will be about the women's outcome Rumble, but the people who are saying that Brock was this is the worst Rumble ever, you don't understand that they were actually, for once, the WWE was trying to build a story. And I said, the guy who comes in, there's somebody coming who's going to take him out. I don't know who it is, but somebody's coming and they're taking him out because he had 13 eliminations in a row. They don't do something like that. They wouldn't have run him through the whole entire roster. They might have. He may have gotten eliminated in the last couple minutes, but that Rumble is one of the best booked and thought out. Like, they actually took thinking for that. I've seen Rumbles since I started watching again 10 years ago that have been terrible. And that was just a well thought out, well played. Okay, we wanted Drew to be the chosen one, 10 years ago or whenever he debuted. And now he's back and he's proven himself and he's gone face in the last couple of weeks and he's been killing it. And he has personality out the ass. So it was a great decision by WWE. And, we always beat up on him, but I'm praising him for this decision.
Yeah, I think they really got a lot of the decision making right, which is something that we kind of almost take for granted that they're not going to do and just assume off the bat that they're going to make the wrong decisions. And, like you said with Roman, it very easily could have had the entire universe up against him again. But instead they chose to go the right route and kind of play more towards building a new star, which is always what the Rumble should be about in the first place. And so kind of accepting that as a reality and going through and doing that with Drew was just so smart. And I think that there's also a potential setup there, too, with Edge returning as well. I could very easily see some sort of program with him and Roman, because of the fact that they have both the same finisher, essentially, with the spear. So I could very easily see some sort of tie-in with that and having them come up against each other possibly down the line. I know it seems like now they're building towards Edge versus Randy Orton, but if he's to stick around, that's definitely something where we could see Roman kind of finally take that heel turn jump. So I think just across the board, they kind of made all the right moves, and the fact that they're sticking with Charlotte as a heel now made a lot of sense in the Women's Rumble, even as controversial as that is. So I think a lot of the booking was done right, which is something we don't normally expect nowadays.
And what was brilliant about it was that even the little small details that they booked were amazing. I just thought the way that Brock got eliminated was so smart because it also protected Brock. You needed Ricochet to kick him between the pants for Drew to get him out. And while it is impressive on Drew to eliminate him with a Claymore kick, it still protects Brock. And then they followed up on Raw that Brock comes out and F5s him. We can't be led to believe that all of a sudden Drew is Brock's kryptonite. They strung that well out properly. Even though Charlotte won that Royal Rumble, they built up a lot of people to make them look strong in that match. I love that Alexa Bliss had a nice run. Shayna Baszler, I thought that she was going to win up until the very end. Beth Phoenix looked really good, and hopefully maybe that sets up something towards WrestleMania. And then in the men's, they planted the seed for Edge and Randy Orton that they followed up the next night. I liked how they integrated the brawl on the outside, with Samoa Joe and Aleister Black and Kevin Owens pushing back on the disciples of Seth Rollins even after they were eliminated. And I also like that they didn't waste time letting, guys who we didn't really think ever had a chance to be in the Rumble last long for no reason. A lot of guys like Elias and, guys from the New Day and Eric Rowan, they went out quickly and early in the match. They kept a lot of the main guys to the very end, and it was believable. It was just fantastic booking from the big stuff of the winners just to the small little details that they really hit out of the park on every single level.
They did. I can't believe I'm praising WWE this much because I've spent so many months critiquing about how they've booked things, and it all just came full circle this past Sunday with, again, was it perfect? No, it's not, but it's as perfect as you could probably realistically expect a plan to be executed with the Royal Rumble match, and the perfect person won. And my God, imagine the reaction if Roman Reigns had walked out of there. I guess from the reports I'm reading, Roman Reigns was indeed actually scheduled to win the Rumble, but it was changed somewhat last minute, as Vince McMahon is famous for doing. And you have Drew McIntyre, who ends up getting to the arena, I guess, that day and confirming that, yeah, you're going over. And like you said, Anthony, good way to protect Brock. Yeah, he got low-blowed, but it's kind of tit for tat. He low-blowed Ricochet the Monday night before, and then he gets a receipt at the Rumble and then gets Claymore kicked. And so that immediately put and established Drew McIntyre as the babyface, the huge babyface, the kind of the underdog in a way, even though, as you said, physically statured he's not, but positioning-wise over the last year, he has kind of been the underdog where you just don't ever believe he's going to win the big one, and he finally wins the big one. And his speech on Raw was heartfelt. I like how he didn't just flip to babyface. He's just kind of evolved into a babyface. It's kind of weird that he hasn't had a real turn. It's just kind of evolved into one, which I like that it's just evolved slowly into this babyface character. It's just very subtly into it, and he didn't turn and pander to the crowd and say, oh, we did it, and all this crap that Seth Rollins just immediately flipped to doing, which I think hurt him. Drew is a legitimate badass. He is a guy that has credentials that you believe he could beat Brock Lesnar, as you said, Mary. All these things add up, and plus, he's had a run in WWE before. We all know he was the, quote, chosen one, and now he's truly earning that title with being the chosen one by winning the Royal Rumble. So do you guys have any final thoughts just on the Rumble match itself before we move on to the actual other matches on the card?
I mean, I was going to say, like, the whole thing overall, like, they started the Rumble with having Stone Cold do the entrance and do the opening. It just made it feel more important. It is amazing how Stone Cold Steve Austin can make something feel important even when he's not involved in the match. I mean, he's the only 3-time winner of a Rumble. So even going into it when it started, you were like, okay, this is going to be important. Because I don't think that Stone Cold would sign off on something like that if he didn't know it was going to be a big deal. So, yeah, absolutely with that. And as far as Drew goes, yeah, he didn't really have a turn, I guess you could say, but he was paired with the lackeys. He was paired with Dolph Ziggler and all those guys, and, like, they removed him from that group, and then he was off TV. So that's a smart thing. Instead of having, like, you know, like a Big Show turn or a Randy Orton turn, like when they just turn right away, like Seth Rollins, they did the smart thing. They removed him from the group somehow, and it was just, you know, he vanished from TV for a little bit. And then when he came back, he was kind of like his own person, like he was on his own. So they didn't really need a reason to say, oh, well, now he's a face. It was smart the way that they're building him. And I don't know where this came from, because usually they drop the ball on stuff like this all the time. And they will just have somebody just turn face or for some stupid reason. But them just, like, removing him from TV and then bringing him back and him kind of just being, you didn't know if he was a good guy or a bad guy. He was just being himself. And I think that's the character that we're seeing right now, is that he isn't, he's kind of a tweener, I guess you could say that, but it's clear that he's going to be the face going forward. And they need a face for Raw. I mean, Seth Rollins tried to do it and it wasn't working. Seth Rollins is a pure heel. You want to hate him. He's a rat. He's a snake. And he does all these, he works better in that kind of character. So they're trying to find somebody to be that top baby face on Raw. And, like, you know, Roman's on SmackDown, and you could say AJ Styles, but AJ Styles also works better since his WWE run has gone. I mean, he was an incredible baby face, but, you know, he's a better heel, and I love what they're doing with AJ right now. So those are just, like, my little tidbits about the Rumble. Again, the men's Rumble really, really, I was ecstatic when Drew won. I was really ecstatic when Edge came out, but when Drew was, like, I was pacing my living room. My friend was over. I was pacing my living room, and he doesn't watch wrestling. He just came over because everybody watches the Rumble, even if you're a casual WWE fan or not, and it's always fun. And I was pacing, and he's looking at me, and I was like, they better not let Roman win. Like, it's the stupidest decision they could do right now. Like, they did a lot of damage to Roman. He should have won in 2014 when he was going up against Batista. He had the crowd behind him, and then all the Daniel Bryan stuff happened, and then they had him win in 2015. And it just, you know, all of them trying to make him the top babyface went out the window. So I'm happy that they protected him. And they made a new star who has been, you know, like you said, credentials. He left, he came back, he beefed up, you know, he had that horrible stint with 3MB, even though I thought it was funny. He's credible now, and they did a lot of smart things in this Rumble. It was a fantastic Rumble. I have no complaints about it.
You there, Zach?
Yep, I definitely think, sorry about that.
Okay.
Definitely think that, this Rumble had a lot going for it. I think that overall they just made so many surprise appearances, but none of them kind of were drowned out by Edge. And I think another thing that a lot of people haven't touched on is the fact that, you had Beth Phoenix and Edge returning at the same Royal Rumble, which I thought was a brilliant little move as well. It kind of almost teased that it was going to happen without you even realizing it when it happened. So like you said earlier, Anthony, just so many small details that went into getting all the big details right. And it just felt like a master plan executed to a T. And although some of the little decisions along the way could have been critiqued here and there, it's like you're kind of picking apart something just for the sake of picking it apart at that point. It's just so much of it was so great. I think that it was just across the board a great team effort from top to bottom.
Yeah, there's nothing really I can add to it. Fantastic Rumble, good lead-up matches, planted a lot of seeds. Liked what they did with The Fiend and Daniel Bryan. Just thumbs up across the board for WWE. Nothing really much more I can add.
Hey guys, so retirement may or may not be something that you're really thinking about, but even if you are years and years away, I mean, I'm 20 years away from retirement, but it's something that we should all be thinking about. There's a company that has retirement plans that you can invest in precious metals like gold, silver, and cryptocurrency. There's also a big opportunity to grow retirement and grow income for either your personal or a business. And anyone who signs up at this website receives a free investment kit and gift. So what is this website? It's brightmoneyinvestments.com. That's brightmoneyinvestments.com. You can diversify and grow with metals and cryptos, and you can even talk to someone there to get a better idea of what you should be investing in. So head on over to brightmoneyinvestments.com.
All right, great. Well, I know we touched a little bit on the Women's Royal Rumble, which I didn't think was as good as the men's, but had the men's not been so good, I think our view of the Women's Royal Rumble would be a little bit higher. But, having Charlotte win, it wasn't the most exciting thing in the world. I think that having her win makes sense, but not to spoil things for people, and maybe I won't, but I will allude to the fact that how she said on Raw that she was going to make her announcement of who she was going to face at WrestleMania, what championship she was going after. And her clue was, I'm going after a championship. Now, for those that don't want to hear a spoiler, I will give you the fair warning now, so just skip ahead from this moment. But what I'm hearing is that Charlotte's actually going to be challenging Rhea Ripley for the NXT Championship at WrestleMania. So if that is indeed the case, and again, rumors are rumors, but this seems to make sense that she alluded to a championship, and having her versus Becky Lynch isn't exactly the most exciting match in the world. We've seen it time and again. They have great chemistry, but my God, enough. Bayley, again, her and Bayley, there's a little bit more there that you could work with because they haven't had so many matches together as her and Becky, but it's not WrestleMania worthy. So having Charlotte go to NXT, again, if this is the case, to face Rhea Ripley for the NXT Women's Championship makes total sense to me, not only from the perspective of, hey, this is going to be a hell of a match, and we've never seen this before on a main stage, and the fact that, B, you also have NXT itself being elevated by Charlotte going to this brand, and it's not being viewed anymore as the redheaded stepchild of the trio of brands. It's legitimately been its own third brand. It certainly has done that, especially after Survivor Series. They've established it as its own third brand, a true third brand. And having Charlotte do that, if it's the case, to me, I am all for that matchup if it indeed takes place.
Okay, so I'm the chick here, so I'm gonna talk about the Women's Rumble. I think the Women's Rumble was just as good as the men's. The only thing there were slight things that took away from it. First off, where was Sasha? I still want to know what happened to Sasha Banks. There were a couple guys who were supposed to be in the Men's Rumble that didn't show up. Rusev. I can't remember who the other, Bobby Lashley, they weren't there, but besides the point, we already talked about the men. Sasha Banks not being in the Rumble, something must have happened because I hate Santino Marello, and him coming out took all the steam out of it for me. Yes. I was enjoying that Rumble full force. Even if Charlotte would have won, it just put a bad taste in my mouth, because you're like, really? That could, like, Kelly came out and I was like, ugh. But, like, at least I could deal with it, you know, because they didn't have a lot of returns. I love the fact that there were so many NXT chicks in there, and they gave them their light and their shine and stuff like that. And I was waiting for Baszler. I was waiting for Shayna. But, you know, Kelly comes out, and I groaned audibly because she is the old guard. She is the Divas. She is the Bella Twins, all the people that, like, kind of, you know, bleh. And then you got Santina, like, really, like, just for that spot with Beth and Natalya, they didn't need that. Because you know what? Going back to Beth is the MVP of that whole pay-per-view. She split her head open, and she was there to the very, very end. And she looked like a badass doing it. She was covered in blood. Her hair looked like spaghetti with, like, red sauce on it. She was impressive. It wasn't even like an old-timer, like, trying to keep up with the new people. She was like, no, I can still go. Like, let's go. And then he came out, and I was just like, the only thing I can think of is that Sasha got injured. She didn't get cleared. Something happened, and they stuck him in because he was there. And they were like, well, we don't have anybody else. There wasn't anybody else, even though they probably could have put somebody else in there from NXT. But it was just such a huge disappointment. It goes back to, like, when Carmella won the ladder match and had what's-his-face help her. It's just like, why is he in there? And he's out of shape, and he's one of the most annoying WWE characters that has ever walked the planet. So that was disappointing. But the match itself, the girls were going. Bianca Belair, like, holy crap, dude. Like, she was made that night. She was so good in the Rumble. But going to the finish, I understand what you guys are saying about Charlotte. But to the point of, if she isn't going after Rhea Ripley, who wants to see Becky versus Charlotte again? Becky just won that match against Asuka. She is now walking around saying she's the GOAT. She's beat Charlotte. There's nothing there. And Charlotte is a legacy. She is a Randy Orton. She doesn't need another opportunity or a Rumble win. She's always going to be okay. She's always going to be in the main event scene. She is probably one of the best of all time, if not the best of all time. Okay, she beat Trish. She's proven everything. You have Shayna Baszler, who walks in there at 30. Okay, at 30. And they built her up as a beast. She is the Brock Lesnar equivalent. She's more badass than Ronda Rousey. If Rousey wasn't coming out, I thought Baszler was winning, especially after the showing that they did in the fall with NXT dominating everybody. Like, there was no reason for Baszler not to win, and that's how she debuts on the main roster. Like, I'm here. Let's go. We saw all the mistakes they made with Asuka. They're trying to redeem it right now. But, you know, Asuka won the Rumble, and Asuka should have won the championship, and then Rousey should have dethroned her. That's how I feel personally about it. I understand what you're saying. Like, it makes sense about Charlotte, but it also made 100% total sense for Shayna to win, just like they just made Drew. You have a storyline with Shayna. It's not like people who watch the main roster don't know who she is. She did that whole stint after, you know, Survivor Series in the fall where NXT was dominating and killing everybody on the main roster. And you just look at her and you know she's a threat. So I was really upset with the outcome, but it didn't take away from the fact that I thought it was a solid women's Rumble. I think it was the best out of the three that they've had so far.
Yeah, that was my instant reaction too, like you said, was that it was the best of the three women's Royal Rumbles that they've had so far. And although I wasn't 100% behind the Charlotte as an initial reaction as the winner, I've come to kind of accept it a little bit more and understand that they're kind of going against the grain and just leaning into the hate from the internet for her and having another opportunity and being given something else. So I can see what they're angling for, but especially to Matt's point, you know, if they are going to try and do Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair, then symbolically it would have made so much more sense in my mind. Have Shayna eliminate Charlotte. Have that really bother her that somebody from the lower quote-unquote brand of NXT beat her. You know, she's supposed to be royalty. Having somebody come in and just dispense her out like a piece of trash could have bothered her, and it would have made sense to kind of build to this program of doing the NXT championship without needing to have her win the Rumble. So I think that if that's the direction they're going, although I think it'll be a great match, they definitely could have built it a little bit better. And, you know, touching back on the other aspects of the Women's Rumble, I definitely agree. The Santino spot was so out of place. It's so far gone. You know, we talk about having retro feels from this event. That was all the wrong types of retro feel, where it just went back and to the days of where Kelly was doing the stripper thing on ECW when that brand was still around, and, you know, having Santino come out in drag, you know, it felt so out of place amongst a very kind of badass Women's Royal Rumble, where it really felt at equal weight to the regular Rumble, to the Men's Rumble, and it was so out of place and just felt like kind of a slap in the face to all the progress that was made in that match and how much of a big fight feel it felt like up until that moment. So it did really suck the air out of the balloon. And I think that it didn't help matters that, you know, nobody was really behind the idea of Charlotte winning the Rumble, which I think is partly the point. But having that so close together was a little bit of a miss. But overall, I think the Women's Rumble was still a fantastic one and still the best that they've done thus far.
Yeah, the Santino Marella thing, it just, like you guys both pointed out, it just didn't really make sense. It didn't fit, and it's too bad because, you know, up here in Canada, Santino Marella, the actual guy, like, he works for a sports channel and he does this show called Aftermath, and he's actually quite insightful, and it was just too bad they came back to do a little, I guess, cameo like that. But all in all, I think why I'm not too upset with Charlotte is because she was the safe choice, and they really didn't put a lot of build into this Women's Royal Rumble. I think there was only 7 or 8 confirmed going in, and I understand why, because there was just so much effort put into the men's. But, you know, leading up to this, I really didn't know who was the proper choice to win the Rumble, unlike in years past. So going in with Charlotte, who's been in kind of a holding pattern for the last couple of months, save for that brief feud with Asuka and Kairi Sane when she teamed up with Becky Lynch. But, you know, if they are going in a direction where she's going to challenge for the NXT championship, I think that'd be pretty cool. I think that there wasn't a correct answer for this win because there just was no apparent favorite. Like, I thought maybe Alexa Bliss could benefit from it, but I think at the end of the day, Charlotte's someone who is the bona fide top dog, or at least one of them, in the women's division. And even though it may have not have been a sexy choice, it probably was the right choice when you considered where WWE was in a booking perspective.
Definitely, yeah. So, boy, to pile on with this Santino Marella thing, maybe that's why I felt that it didn't live up to the men's end of it. It's simply because of the Santina spot that, again, like, what the hell is WWE doing in this day and age when they're trying to make this women's division as legitimate as they can and give them as much opportunity as the men do and all this stuff? And then you have like you were saying, Mary, with James Ellsworth and Carmella, that whole thing that lasted, my God, it felt like a year, maybe 2. I don't even know. It was, and then you have Santino Marella come out in a spot that felt very 2008. It felt very nostalgic, and as you said, Zach, or I don't know if it's Zach or Anthony, in a way that was all the wrong way. I don't need to feel this way to bring up these feelings of, number one, it's not even funny, right? It's not like I didn't laugh. I mean, I just said, oh my God, I just kind of rolled my eyes. It's not the time nor the place to do that. And it was not a good feel to have a man dress up as a woman. I know Nia Jax came in the Royal Rumble last year, and you all know how I feel about that. But to have Santino Marella dress up as a woman and then come back out and steal a spot from a woman who could have legitimately had that spot like Sasha Banks, although we don't even know what is the deal with her. We don't know why she didn't participate. I've been trying to scour the websites, and I don't know why she wasn't there. But for that reason, it put a damper and brought the thing down. And yes, Bianca Belair had a career night. I loved what they did with Bianca Belair, really establishing her as a main event, potentially down the line main event woman in the women's division. And then, of course, you had Shayna Baszler, and she was my pick, along with many others. But you can still get to Shayna Baszler Becky. You can still get to Bayley versus, honestly, I don't even know who at this point. The SmackDown side of the women is a little bit weak. So I don't know where they're even going with the SmackDown side of it. And maybe Bayley won't even be champion by the time we get to WrestleMania. But the point is, the women who needed to have a good night had a good night. Shayna Baszler, yeah, she didn't win, but she made it to the end. She got eliminated, but sooner than later, she is coming back to Monday Night Raw to confront Becky Lynch, which is, I think, where they're going to go with this. And so I guess to kind of put a bow on the Women's Royal Rumble, let me ask you guys this question as a group. And do you think that they are hinting at turning Becky Lynch heel? The reason I'm saying that, Becky Lynch came out on this past week on Raw in an interview with Charlie Caruso backstage. She said that she was doubting herself, and then she said, I don't know why, because I'm the best. And she wears, like you said, she has a jacket that says the GOAT, right? We all know what GOAT is. And she's getting a little bit arrogant now. And to me, she cut basically a heel promo that she's the best. No one can beat her. She's done everything there is to do. Who the hell, as a babyface, gets a GOAT jacket? It didn't rub me the right way as a babyface. So is this just Becky being Becky, and we're all supposed to love her because we all know she's the GOAT? Or is this a sign from WWE of seeds being planted for a possible heel turn down the line?
It's a good question. I don't know. I've now that you said it like that, I do think that maybe that's the direction that they're going, or she's gonna, continue being this babyface who thinks she's the best, and Shayna is gonna come out and confront her. But I just feel like Shayna getting eliminated kind of was like, oh, she got eliminated, and she's not that good. I feel like it's shades of what they did to Asuka. Asuka had a 2-year streak of being undefeated, and they just pulled the rug out from under her. And, Shayna's a 2-time champ in NXT. She's legit like Brock and Rousey, where she has an MMA background, and she's just, she's amazing. She's probably my favorite villain that I've seen in a long time. I draw to her. I like when she beats up people. So I hope that's the angle that they're going in. I don't know what they're doing. Like everybody said, I didn't really have a pick in the Women's Rumble, but I definitely didn't think that it was going to be Charlotte because, as you said, she's been in a holding pattern. When I was starting to look at everything, and me and Matt have discussed over the last couple of weeks about, Sasha and Bayley being in this tag team, and the roles should be reversed, that Sasha should have the title and Bayley should be the sidekick, because as good as Bayley is in the ring or whatever, she doesn't have the personality, even though they've changed it, and I'm super happy that she's not what she was. She just doesn't have that torch to carry. She is the sidekick, and I thought that Sasha was going to win the Rumble and then turn around and challenge Bayley for it, because that made sense for me. And it wasn't going to be like, oh, you're betraying me or I screwed you. If Sasha won and beat Bayley for the title, that it would be in a mutual agreement. At least one of them still had the title, and they were going to move forward like that. And it was an easy way to get the title off of Bayley to transfer it to Sasha, because Sasha has been the focus in that tag team or that duo that they're doing. So when Charlotte won, I was just like, what are you doing? And I was still questioning where Sasha was. And everybody, Sasha was saying she was going to, she did announce that she was going to be in the Rumble, right? I'm not misquoting and stuff.
I don't recall her specifically saying she was going to be in the Rumble. Does anybody else?
Anthony, Zach?
Yeah, I do remember. I thought that she was announced as being one of the entrants. I don't know if she specifically said it, but I do remember something coming out as Sasha Banks was one of the entrants. I don't know where it was that I read it, but I think that it was definitely a report that came from WWE at some point that had Sasha in there.
Yeah, because I totally thought that she cut a promo and she was saying that she was going to win or something like that. I could be making things up. There's so much wrestling, I get confused. My days bleed into each other. But yeah, so that's where I stand on the whole entire thing. I don't know what's going to go forward. I really hope that if Charlotte won, that they are going forward with Rhea Ripley, because other than Shayna, Rhea is the biggest badass in NXT. Like, she's a beast and she's proven herself, and I hope that it's probably going to go in the direction, though, that Charlotte might win the NXT title, which I would think would be weird, but it would make more sense for Rhea to beat Charlotte and still establish herself as a top dog in NXT in the women's division. So again, like somebody said before, there wasn't a lot of build-up for the Women's Rumble, so you kind of went in there not knowing who was the favorite and stuff. And just again, the reason why the Charlotte thing rubs me wrong, it's because it's almost like the Roman Reigns syndrome. Like, they give her every opportunity. I mean, she broke Trish Stratus's record already, and Trish busted her ass for that record over years. Like, how long has Charlotte been active? 5-6 years? Like, she really hasn't been around that long, and she's already a 10-time champ. So it was just baffling to me that they would hand her another opportunity, but they did the same thing with Roman. But Roman was a different kind of beast. He wasn't he is a legacy. He is from the family. He's from the family of Samoas, but that was never the angle with him. They never kind of made that a talking point when they were talking about it. They would mention it, but it was just more that he's Roman Reigns, and he's got a Superman punch. Charlotte, they have shoved down her throat that it is Ric Flair's daughter, and Ric Flair is considered one of the best of all time, if not the greatest of all time. So it just left a bad taste in my mouth. But I hope that I'm proved wrong, like you guys are saying. It's a smart decision, and moving forward, hopefully it goes after Rhea Ripley, because I don't want to see Becky and Charlotte again. Like, that storyline, unless they're together as a heel duo and the Four Horsewoman storyline actually comes to fruition, I don't want to see it anymore.
Yeah, and if they are kind of going the direction of making, Becky a heel, I guess that it can play into that a bit. As you said, if they do make a duo or reunite the Four Horsewomen as a heel stable even, I could see that being very successful, and then it would tie in a lot of sense as to why the women of NXT would kind of take notice and want to get involved for WrestleMania. So there's some directions they can go with this. But I think when it comes to is Becky going to be a heel, it's a bit of a tough question, because I think ultimately they're kind of basing a lot of her character around Stone Cold in a lot of ways, where it's meant to be this tweener, where he could. He was always the one who could do anything at any moment. He could hit a stunner on anybody and just say, it's because he's Stone Cold. And I think that's kind of the direction they're trying to move towards with Becky, where they're just making her such a badass that she's kind of above being a face or heel, that she's just kind of a character, and she's meant to be organic, and that you don't really know what the rules are with her. So I think that it's more them leaning into that concept than it is a direct heel turn. So I think that it's more of an acceptance of her as a tweener as opposed to a kind of specific heel turn. But I think that it plays into a lot of different programs to go that direction. So I think it's a smart move, even if they do decide to go full on heel with her.
Yeah, I think Zach hit it right on the head there, because, we've seen this act before with Becky. Over the summer, she had a lot of heelish tendencies, specifically in a program with, I believe it was Lacey Evans, where she had a lot of, cocky, arrogant promos that she cut. And unfortunately, at least for me, from my perspective, I did not like that side of Becky. It kind of got me annoyed, but they kind of pulled back from that over the last 2 or 3 months, and I got back on board with Becky. I hope that they're not going down that road again, that she's always going to be very, arrogant and she could do no wrong and kind of like an anti-hero, like Zach said, building her like Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like Stone Cold Steve Austin was the only guy who could stun Linda McMahon and still be viewed as a babyface. It feels like that's what they're desperately trying to do with Becky right now. I just personally hope that's not the case, because I found she came off very, very obnoxious when she did go down that road and almost made her come off as unlikable to a certain extent. Now, I also do have to understand that the reason she did turn babyface was from an organized heel turn, and that's what got everyone behind her. So I kind of understand that they're trying to play off of that, but I don't know. I didn't really like the full-blown Becky, heelish and arrogant persona she had in the summer, so I hope they're not going down that road again.
I hope not. I don't, because like you said, there is a fine line between charming arrogance and someone punch her in the face arrogance. And Becky, she started to flirt with that fence on Raw, and I just, maybe it is time to kind of turn her. And you know what? If Shayna Baszler is going to be facing her at WrestleMania, I could see the audience at that time going, okay, Becky, you've had your run. We're ready for Shayna Baszler to, quote, come up to the main roster, even though it's a true third brand now. But we're ready for her to be on a bigger stage of the Monday Night Raw audience. We're ready for her to be the badass. We've seen her in AEW, NXT. We've seen her in front of our eyes grow. We've seen her dominate. She's got a presence like no other. I could see the WrestleMania audience turning on Becky a little in favor of Shayna Baszler. I mean, I could absolutely see that happening, with the WrestleMania audience being a very progressive audience in terms of who they want next, who they think is going to be their next, quote, organic star. We've seen it with Daniel Bryan. We're seeing it right now with Drew McIntyre, and we could see it with Shayna Baszler. And time and again. The other thing too with the Women's Royal Rumble, and this will be my final comment on it, which again I liked it, I really did, was Naomi's return. And I tweeted this out because I saw her come down the ramp, and I'm like, who the hell is that? Like, you look at her hair and you're like, oh, right. And she looks like, if you guys have seen Austin Powers, she looks like Foxy Cleopatra, where Beyonce played a part in that movie. She is exactly like Foxy Cleopatra. I don't know if anyone else made that connection, but it's good to see her back. I'm glad that she's back. I hope that she's on the SmackDown roster, and I hope that, God knows, the SmackDown needs help on the women's side. But overall, yeah, it was a good Rumble. I liked what they did, and yeah, we had Molly Holly, or Mighty Molly as she came out. It was a bit of, you gotta always have nostalgia in the match, and made total sense to me. Mighty Molly coming down, she lasted, a few minutes, right? And she was what she was, and it was good to see her back too. But it was good also for Naomi, who I hope is a mainstay, and it wasn't just kind of a one-off and then she goes back into obscurity. But overall, yes, I hope that indeed Naomi stays, and I hope that, honestly, I don't know if I want to see Becky hold on to that championship beyond WrestleMania. I think the fans are starting to feel it, be like, okay, who's next? Like, we want to know who that next person will be that she hands the baton to. And when Becky loses, it's going to be a big deal. And I can't see anybody more of a big deal than Shayna Baszler dethroning her at WrestleMania. To me, it has to be nobody else other than Shayna Baszler. I just don't see another possibility. Plus, last thing, when you look at their Survivor Series one-on-one interview they did with each other, that was that made me feel so much. They had instant chemistry with each other. They are cut from the same cloth. I loved their chemistry. I loved their words for each other. They felt real, and I think that they'll follow up with this at WrestleMania. You there?
Sorry, I missed my mute button. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Hitting on Naomi real quick. Yeah, it was awesome to see her back. I like the look she got going on. She's beautiful anyway. But like that was kind of overlooked by Beth Phoenix, performance in the match, which was unfortunate. And then the Santino Marella thing, like, you forget about people like Naomi finally making her return. We didn't see a Nia Jax You know, like I said, no Sasha. So that was kind of a big return. You know, and we didn't, I figured she was coming back in the Rumble. So yeah, I hope that she gets right back into the main event picture. She deserves to be there. She was being awesome and being Naomi and how she always is. With the Sasha Becky thing, I totally agree, but Rousey's looming, and she put out a tweet or an Instagram, I think right after the Rumble, and was like, you guys thought I was returning tonight? You know, kind of tongue in cheek, like, haha, not tonight, but I'm coming. And I think if it isn't Baszler, it's going to be Rousey. You're going to get Rousey versus Becky too. And hopefully there isn't a third party involved, because there should have never been Charlotte, like Shoehorn Charlotte. That's what my brother calls her. She should have never been in that match. But, you know, we got to get there. I don't know if Rousey's just going to show up like 2 weeks before Mania. I mean, The Rock's done it. Other people have done it. So it could be something like that. But, yeah, I can see the crowd getting behind Shayna, you know, if it was Shayna Becky. Because, yeah, I think the Becky run has run its course, you know, and I don't necessarily – I hope, though, it doesn't turn into like a CM Punk thing, because Shayna Baszler is a born heel. She cannot be a babyface, and that's the problem. You know, just because the crowd is cheering for Baszler, it's not necessarily because they want her to be the good guy. They just want the other person to get out. You know, so yeah, they want the dominant, you know, machine to take her out. It's just kind of the same thing with Brock. Brock's never really been a babyface. He's had those moments, but if you look back at it, it's because they didn't like the other person more. So they would rather the heel take him out. It's the same thing that happened with Punk and Cena. Everybody got behind Punk because they were sick of the John Cena stuff. They didn't want him to be a face, but the company took that as, oh, well, they're cheering for him, let's turn him face. And we all know that, like, Punk can do it, but he's not in his element if he isn't a heel. And it's the same. I feel the same way about Shayna. Could Becky be a good heel? Absolutely, 100%. And they need to evolve her character just like they did Seth. You know, you can't keep somebody in a holding pattern to the point where the fans start to, you know, not like them. And then you should change them right away. But, you know, the company... Right now we're praising them, but it's still WWE and there's still WWE logic, so we're gonna have to see how this plays out.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that, you know, overall the return of Naomi was definitely kind of overshadowed by some other moments here. And I think that it was kind of one of those accepted moments of where you kind of expected it to happen because she had been gone for, I believe it was personal reasons and things like that. So it wasn't an injury or anything like that was keeping her out. So it felt like a natural place. So I think that's kind of why it fell by the wayside a little bit. And I think it would have been smart, too, when the Usos returned to have her return alongside or, you know, the same night, kind of similar to the Beth Phoenix and Edge situation here. But, you know, that's just apples and oranges, I guess. You're kind of comparing things. But overall, I think that they're doing a lot of the things right for this women's division as long as they keep kind of trending along this way. And I think, like you said, Matt, I think it's time that we start taking the belts away from the four horsewomen and having them play into storylines, but maybe not necessarily be the champion anymore. You know, I think that's something that bogs down the women's division a lot of the time, where it needs to have a belt involved for it to be a feud. And I think that's kind of a mistake and something that's holding back that division. And if they start to move the belts away from the four horsewomen and keep them as big names, I think that'll do a lot of good for the division going forward.
Yeah, one person that I've been surprised that they pulled back on a lot is Alexa Bliss. You know, she came in first. I thought she had an impressive outing, but, you know, it wasn't too long ago that she was the face of the Raw division, and I think she was the first woman to be the Raw and SmackDown Women's Champion. It was her, Charlotte Flair, but it may have been her first. And, you know, to Zach's point, I just think it's kind of getting a bit redundant now with, like, Bayley, Charlotte, Becky, rinse, repeat. You know, when's the last time that someone other than them have been a women's champion in any capacity? And the answer is, we're closing in on a year ago now. I believe Alexa Bliss was champion in summer of 2018 before Rousey beat her, but it's getting a bit stale now. And I think that Bayley has suffered not so much through no fault of her own, because I feel for the most part that she has really excelled in this character, but she's had no dancing partners. And I feared that when they originally did this latest rendition of the brand split. And I thought that Alexa Bliss would be a good, dance partner for her. And Lacey Evans has been an all right holding or temporary contender, but there hasn't been any legitimate contenders on the SmackDown side. Maybe Naomi fills that void, but I think that they have to start exploring options to be the face of the respective brands outside of the classic four horsewomen. And then to tie Sasha into it, it's kind of bizarre how she wasn't involved in any capacity. So, I mean, I feel like the women's division has gotten a little stale over the last few months, but it's not like too far gone that they can't get back on track leading into WrestleMania.
No, they're definitely not too far gone, and I think there's room for improvement, but there's a lot coming down the line. I mean, Ronda Rousey, as you alluded to, Mary, I did see that Instagram or tweet or whatever the heck she put out there, basically trolling the fans that thought she was going to return. But I read into it the same way you read into it, that it was like, hey, you all thought I was going to return tonight, but I'm not going to return when you think I'm going to. Look out. I mean, that's kind of what I read into it. And, maybe she's not going to return for WrestleMania. If I was going to put my money down, I would say probably. And the only logical person would be Becky. And then it leaves like, well, what would Shayna Baszler do? I mean, there's so many moving parts. And don't forget, there are 2 pay-per-views between now and WrestleMania. I mean, that's how Roman Reigns is going to get to The Fiend, right? That's how it's going to happen. That's how, presumably, Charlotte is going to get to Rhea Ripley. So don't forget, there are 2 big stops that we have to go through to get to Mania, and things can change in a big way. I mean, we had one-on-one Becky and Ronda, which turned into a triple threat after about a month, and I was yelling about that, and I'm still yelling about how stupid of a decision that was. But nonetheless, they wanted to make sure Charlotte can always say that she was in the first ever women's main event of WrestleMania, which is, I think, a big reason they did that. But so it's been an hour already, and we've covered 2 matches. So I could talk about these 2 matches forever, and just because of the different dynamics that happened here, the returns, of course, the no-shows, as we mentioned and alluded to, with Rusev and Bobby Lashley and Sasha, among Nia Jax and others, which I was very surprised about Nia Jax not returning. I had been calling for that for really weeks and weeks, and I've really got my ego bruised about that not happening. And I'm okay with her not being in it. They clearly have other plans. From what I'm reading, she's close to or is medically cleared already, so I'd assume that she comes back prior to WrestleMania and inserts herself right back into the women's division. But all right, well, let's move on to another match that I think somebody mentioned earlier at the beginning of the show, and that was The Fiend versus Daniel Bryan. I'll give my thoughts quick, and then I'll toss it to Mary, and we'll go around the invisible table here. I really thought this was the best match that The Fiend has had since he has been The Fiend. I like that there was no red light. I like the physicality of the match, the pacing of the match. It didn't seem too long. The psychology. It wasn't heavy on finisher. The Fiend gets up, finisher. Like, we all know the beloved Hell in a Cell that happened a few months ago. It was a very well devised plan. Was the ending a little sloppy? Yeah, it was kind of clunky at the end where he just kind of stands up and then, basically, gives him a mandible claw and good night the lights. It was a little weird, but other than that, I loved everything about this match. It's the best match you could have possibly thought of when you saw this on on paper. The only thing that I'm surprised of, I'm not disappointed, I'm just surprised, is that there was no clue into what the weakness of The Fiend is. My assumption, and this is just my assumption, and I alluded to this on a show last week, is that this could be, his source of power could be his mask, and if you try to demask him or pull his mask off, then that will, quote, weaken him. As you know, that's my guess. That's my guess, as the mask is maybe his weakness, or maybe they never follow up on that whatsoever, as Rambling Rabbit talked about a few weeks ago on SmackDown. So anyway, I like this match. I think I'd give it a big thumbs up. Was it a 5-star match? No. I mean, if I was going to rank it, I'd say like 3.5 out of 5. Solid match, and I think it's time for The Fiend to move on, or maybe he still kind of hangs in Daniel Bryan's group until Roman Reigns is ready at Elimination Chamber, which is when I think that he'll the stars will align to finally make that program official.
Yeah, it was a solid match. I don't have any real complaints about it. I think I liked how it seemed like Daniel Bryan would, first off, to go back to the weakness thing, everybody was saying it was the red light and they got rid of the red light. So obviously it's not that. Two, like there was a spot where Bray put on the manual claw on him and he tried to get him in an armbar on the ropes, even though he had his hand in his mouth. And that was the one moment in the match that stood out to me because it just showed Daniel Bryan's psychology, his quickness, how he thinks, how he's always countering everything, and that, like, even though he's the underdog in a lot of things, he is going to fight tooth and nail not to be the underdog. It was kind of more of like a rebirth for Daniel Bryan, showing why he's Daniel Bryan for me. I felt like it was the first match that Bray has had that hasn't felt like an all-out squash, which a lot of the matches as him in the Fiend persona, that's how it's come off. So it was a solid match. I wanted Bryan to win because I don't know where they're going with with Bray Wyatt. I just don't see storylines going forward as who's going to challenge him. I know everybody's saying Roman Reigns, but I just haven't. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm not picking up on those things. So I thought that like Bryan might get the title and it'd be like a transitional thing going into Mania. But there was a lot of history with Bray and Bryan at the Rumble, going back to 2014, which was I was watching before the actual Rumble on Sunday. Their feud started there. It was right after, Daniel Bryan left the family and they had their match there. So, maybe I was expecting a little more, but at the same time, it didn't disappoint me. I thought it was a solid match. It was good showing by both of them. It showed Bray being a monster, and it showed the quickness and the slyness and everything that makes Daniel Bryan one of the best wrestlers on the planet, and why he, shaved his head and went back to being the Dragon. So I don't have a lot of commentary on it because I didn't hate it, but it wasn't like, oh my God, blah, 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 blah. It was a solid match. It was good, and I just don't know where they go from here.
Yeah, I completely agree with a lot of your points there, Mary, where it's just like I don't see where they're going with the Fiend right now. There's not a clear path. I actually thought this was going to be a low light of the night, just because I thought the strap match in general felt like a weird choice to go with here. But I was proven wrong, and I should just know that whenever Daniel Bryan's in a wrestling match, it's going to be a good wrestling match. I feel like that should just be a mental rule going into any pay-per-view from now on for myself. But it just kind of, it hit on all the right notes, but at the same time, it wasn't completely spectacular. I think a lot of the way that the Fiend has been handled has kind of held back the match quality that he can have. They don't really know how to handle him, whether they should have him just squashing people or they should just have him have these kind of more grueling battles. And I think they're kind of lost in how to handle him. And I think really only Bray Wyatt kind of knows how this character should be handled. And I think that maybe where some of the conflict comes in is because he's not making the choices of who his opponents are and and things like that, which you'll never have that kind of freedom in the WWE in modern era. But it's just one of those things where he does feel a little bit lost at this point. And to your point too, Matt, about the weakness, I definitely thought that they could have revealed something or alluded to something that would have made sense as to where they were going here. And I think that as a counter to the mask being his weakness, it could also be the hurt glove that he applies the mandible claw with. That's one thing that I've kind of had in my mind cooking up a little bit here, because he does kind of heavily use that for symbolic purpose of what he's intending to do. So I wonder where they're going with this, and I know that there's some sort of plan, but I wish that it was just a little bit more clear at this point so we could have something to start to sink our teeth into with Bray Wyatt.
I think with Bray Wyatt, unfortunately, he's still feeling the effects from that god-awful Hell in a Cell match with Seth Rollins back in October, where they kind of booked themselves into a corner that he had to win the Universal title, or else he would have completely stripped all credibility from the Fiend character. And as a result, they put the belt on him, at least in my mind, way too soon. And he is clearly just in a holding pattern with until Roman Reigns and him, at least in my mind, inevitably clash at WrestleMania. As for Daniel Bryan and the Fiend's match at Royal Rumble, I thought it was good considering what it was. I still find that it took a back seat and has been taking a back seat to Baron Corbin and Roman Reigns on SmackDown for the last 2 months or so. And I feel like that kind of hurt the build to the match. Like Zach said, there wasn't a whole lot of expectations for it. But in terms of the match itself, I thought it was good. You know, Daniel Bryan and Bray Wyatt have very good chemistry in the ring. I like both wrestlers. The ending could have been better, but all in all, I would give it a solid, 7 out of 10 match. And the red lighting not being there definitely helped. So I guess what took it away from me, the excitement away from me heading into this match, is that I knew and I felt that it was just, a step along the way to Roman Reigns versus The Fiend, and there was never a real belief for me that Daniel Bryan ever had a real shot to win the belt.
Yeah, I felt that way too. I felt that Daniel Bryan was going to put up a good fight, that he would get closer than he did the first time, but in his loss we would find out at least a bit of we would salvage the moment, if you will, by finding out something about The Fiend that is a little bit more progressive. You'd see something, you'd learn something, and it was just kind of business as usual. And, I'm okay with that. I don't think it's getting stale just yet. But there needs to be something we learn a little bit more about The Fiend, and I'm fine with the slow burn. I love slow burn, and maybe I'm just being conditioned to WWE's style of 100 miles an hour and no patience with fans and all that kind of stuff, but I'm all about the slow burn, and if we just take a little extra time to learn more about The Fiend step by step, so be it. And I think that, again, they're not going to rush to Roman Reigns, and I know, Mary, you don't think that they're going to be you don't see signs of Roman Reigns, but that's I think the whole point is that they have been so separate for a while now that it begs to have these two. The story begs to have these two go one-on-one, because who else is The Fiend going to challenge for a championship? I mean, look around the roster on SmackDown. Look around the field. There's not a whole lot of guys that The Fiend could presumably go one-on-one with and make it believable, especially how the position of The Fiend has been immortal or just kind of inhuman, and there has been nobody on the roster on SmackDown anyway that you would think, oh man, that would be awesome to have him face so-and-so. It's really Roman Reigns. That is the obvious pick, and especially around WrestleMania season. So, all right, guys, well, in the interest of time, I'm gonna move on to the next match here, and I'm actually gonna touch on Sheamus and Shorty G, or as I like to call him, Chad Gable. Sheamus and Chad Gable, you know what? I thought that this match, honestly, was exactly what it was going to be. It was going to be a match in which Sheamus comes out on top, number one, which I think was the right decision based on where they see Sheamus going, and that it's a stepping stone for Sheamus. So I think having Shorty G, having Chad Gable go in there and do what he does his entire career in WWE, put up a good fight, get the crowd invested, just put on a clinic in terms of actual wrestling, ultimately to just come up short with a couple of hope spots. That's been his gimmick. That's what he does. And it's not surprising he lost here. I've kind of come to the reconciliation that WWE is not going to do anything major with Chad Gable. So I'm just fine. I'm fine with them at least using him in a role that is not quite to that top tier or even that mid top tier, but as a guy that is a gatekeeper and can have a good match with anybody, and he's a good hand, and he can bring an audience in and make the guy he's working with look like $1 million. You know, if that's the role he's been designated to, so be it. It's better than him being on like 205 Live or Main Event or just kind of in the abyss of nowhere. So if this is as far as he'll go, then I've accepted it. As far as Sheamus goes, I think that this program is over, and I think that Sheamus is moving on to bigger and better things. Who that may be, I don't know. But overall, I think this match was exactly the way that we thought it was going to play out.
To be honest, I only caught like a little bit of this match, so I don't have that much input about the technicality of the match. As far as characters go, you know Sheamus is going to end up back in the main event scene. I've been saying since he returned, though, it's kind of fallen flat. He went back to his old look, but he's still kind of in the character that he took on when he had the mohawk. I really don't know what they're doing with him. I don't think they know what to do with him. Chad Gable, it's interesting that you're saying this because he is a technical wrestler. He is in the veins of Kurt Angle and Shelton Benjamin, and he's one of those collegiate athletes. But he's also being built as the ultimate underdog. I mean, he's kind of in the same position that Daniel Bryan was in. Daniel Bryan, though, had a lot more wins, and they didn't give him a crappy gimmick with Shorty G, which is just insulting to Chad Gable in general. I mean, they did take Bryan and put him in the Wyatt family when they shouldn't have, and they had that whole thing going. But I wouldn't count him out necessarily yet, because when an underdog starts making waves and, you know, like people get behind him, sometimes that spark happens and the company does get behind them and they'll have faith with him. I just think they don't know what to do with his character, and they're straying away from the typical Kurt Angle or the Shelton Benjamin angle that, you know, he was a collegiate athlete and he was a wrestler, you know, all that stuff that those guys have done it because they don't want to do it again. And, like, that's kind of been, you know, put on those guys. Those are the guys who carry that torch or that gimmick. So I don't know what they're going to do with him, but I wouldn't count him out yet because he's got the underdog thing going for him. And I think at some point he might have a breakout moment where the crowd really gets behind them. But that all depends on if they put him on TV enough and people get familiar with him enough. And, you know, he has a 1, 2, 3 kid moment, you know, like not to like throw it way back, but you never know. He has the talent. He's good. I think he has a good look, even if he's a small dude. And we've learned in the last 10 years, thank God, that your size doesn't really matter. It matters about your heart and your talent. So those are my opinions about that whole match. Of course, Sheamus was going to win. He's a main eventer. He's been a main eventer. He's a Triple H guy. But I don't know what either character, what holds for them in the future. I just hope that Sheamus will be safe. He'll be fine. I just hope Chad Gable doesn't, you know, fall to the realms of a Drew McIntyre or Jinder Mahal where they have to go away and then come back and then prove themselves, or it turns into an EC3 thing. Like, he's in a very precocious position. I don't know if that was the right word. I use wrong words all the time, but I wouldn't count him out yet.
Yeah, and I'm kind of glad you brought this one up, Matt, because I remember a few months back when I was first starting this podcasting thing, too, when we were talking about Chad Gable, when he was still Chad Gable, and I mentioned the rumors that they would move to possibly renaming him Shorty G, and we both kind of had a laugh about it and said, you know, that seems like something WWE would do, but we don't think they're that stupid. And yet here we are, you know, months later talking about Shorty G getting his face face kicked off by Sheamus on the pre-show. I mean, it all has kind of come to full circle here, but I think that, as Mary said, he does have that ultimate underdog feeling. I think where they're kind of messing up is that they're trying to make him a little too gimmicky with that. I think him coming back in he reminded me of Melvin the Superhero from Jeff Dunham's act. If you ever seen Jeff Dunham, where it's just, he's in this shiny blue and green. It just was a horrible character move, in my opinion, with how they renamed him Shorty G and tried to make it seem like he actually came up with that name, which was just obnoxiously laughable. It just made no sense to me. And I think that, it was a little weird, too, having Sheamus, make his in-ring reappearance on the pre-show. I know they're trying to kind of condition the idea that the pre-show is a part of the pay-per-view just as much as the main card, but it still has that feel of, if John Morrison can get a re-debut on SmackDown, why is Sheamus stuck to the pre-show of the Royal Rumble and not even make an appearance on the card? If it's going to be a squash match, open the card with it or something so that it doesn't feel like so much of an afterthought. And like to your point, Mary, they just don't seem to really have much of a direction for him. It's just kind of like they're like, oh, right, we're supposed to get Sheamus back out there, so let's shove him in the ring at the beginning of the Rumble and do it that way.
Yeah, it just seems like kind of a pit stop for Sheamus for bigger and better things to, ease him back in. It doesn't feel like Shorty G has a whole lot to gain from this particular feud. I touched on it last time I was on the show that I think that Sheamus and Braun Strowman would be perfect dancing partners for one another, preferably with the Intercontinental Championship or something along those lines. Shorty G, unfortunately, he really picked up steam during the King of the Ring tournament as Chad Gable, and then they just put their paws on it and really just derailed all of his momentum. I just feel like it's not the worst thing in the world. There's worse spots for Chad Gable to be, but unless he goes back into another tag team where he's had success in the past, whether it be with American Alpha or Bobby Roode or Shelton Benjamin, unless he's in a tag team, I really don't see Shorty G or Chad Gable or whatever rendition of him you want to go with. I don't see him being relevant in any kind of title picture. I think he would only be on TV in such a role.
Probably not. And it's more than likely that he's just kind of the feel-good underdog that likes to make sure that everyone embraces who they are, and it's that feel-good PG message. And I don't know. I have that feeling that this is nothing more than a stepping stone for Sheamus. I mean, I just don't believe that after this, that Sheamus is going to not go anywhere after this victory. I think that Vince McMahon has always kind of had a liking for Sheamus. I think that's just kind of the way that it's been. And for Chad Gable, I mentioned this on a show with Ashley that I did last week in our preview show for the Rumble, that the WWE has a habit of just taking guys who organically get over, and they don't have anything flashy. It's just kind of a straightforward, in-ring prowess type of, I have a presence in the ring and I can tell an awesome story, and they're organically getting over, and WWE says, oh, hold on a second, we're going to fix this. And then they throw some crappy gimmick on it that is over the top, and they think everything has to be cartoonish and flashy colors and all this stuff, and it completely just negates all the progress that person has made organically getting over when they put the WWE spin on it, and I say that in quotes. It seems like that every time. They're like, we'll fix this, and it's like, no, that's the thing. It's not broken, right? And that's what it feels like to me with Chad Gable, Chad effing Gable. I'm not going to say Shorty G. I hate myself every time I say it. So moving on, again, in the interest of time, I have to move on to the next pre-show match of Andrade versus oh God, why am I losing it? I'm sorry, Andrade versus, somebody pick me up here. Why am I losing it?
Humberto Carrillo.
Humberto Carrillo, who they also have written off on, Andrade was written off on Monday Night Raw, we all know now, due to a 30-day suspension from the wellness policy. So that was interesting that he was written off this past week for a 4-week absence from Monday Night Raw for a wellness violation. Again, everyone hears that and they go, "Oh, steroids!" Like that's what the outsiders of wrestling think. Probably it could be just a overuse of pain pills or muscle relaxers or something that shouldn't be in his systems. It's not always steroids. It's what everyone points to. But nonetheless, he's gone for 30 days, but he still has the championship, and I think that's interesting to me. And I'll get to the Rumble match in just a second, but it's interesting to me on the wellness perspective. Typically, when somebody gets suspended, that they'll either drop the championship or embarrass them in some kind of way before that they go out. I mean, look what they did with Robert Roode, who got literally buried by Roman Reigns with the announce table a number of weeks ago on SmackDown before he was knocked for his 30-day wellness violation. And yes, he got his head DDT'd on the concrete by Humberto Carrillo. And I love the way Zelina Vega sold it. She is so effing money. It's not even funny how awesome and how much she adds to his character. But I'm glad they didn't take the title off him. They looked at the bigger picture and said, yeah, he's going to get dinged for this. Let's write him off. He'll come back in 4 weeks. This is his first violation. I'm glad that they didn't just say, yeah, no, we're going to cut off our nose to spite our face, and we're going to show you. It's the bigger picture here. But the match at the Royal Rumble, I thought was really good. These guys took some crazy bumps. Some of them made me cringe in a way that's like, oh my God. And I expected them to put the X sign up. They busted their ass. Humberto Carrillo coming out on top makes total sense. I'm on board for it. It was really more about Humberto Carrillo getting a rub from the spotlight and getting. This is really his biggest match to date. It's a pre-show, but this is his biggest match in his career. Was the pre-show to the Royal Rumble. It was about just showing that he can hang. He can certainly hang. I like what I see with Humberto Carrillo. I also liked on Monday Night Raw the fire that he showed after Zelina Vega interfered, and he didn't just go, "Ah, shucks," and he just kind of walks up the ramp. He showed fire on Monday Night Raw by beating the hell out of Andrade and laying him out. I like that. That's what I want to see from a babyface. Doesn't always have to be say your prayers, take your vitamins, and kissing babies. He showed fire, and I did not expect that, and I like that. So, all right, well, your turn, guys.
There's a couple moving parts to this. I'm going to be Mary. One, what about the 30-day not defense? Like, he's not going to defend his title for 30 days. Everybody forgets that, but they only use it when they want to use it, which, whatever. 2, he's not going to lose the title because he's dating Charlotte Flair. 3, wellness policy. If he's using steroids, they're terrible steroids. It's got to be something else. But as far as Humberto and Andrade is what they wanted Alberto Del Rio to be. Even though Alberto Del Rio can speak better English than Andrade can, he is the Spanish superstar that they wanted to represent the Hispanic community, and they got it. They've had so many hits and misses. I mean, Rey Mysterio's back, but Rey Mysterio at this point is a Hall of Famer, and I saw an interesting conversation the other day asking, like, where would you rank him in Hall of Fame, and people kind of, like, don't, or greatest of all time, they don't rank him in because he's a luchador and he's a smaller guy. I mean, the man's had a fantastic career, and he's still firing on all cylinders with all the surgeries that he's had. So they've been trying to fill the Mysterio void for a long time, and they thought it was Del Rio, and Del Rio's a scumbag, and I will say that right off the bat. I hate him. He did nothing for me. His whole gimmick, even when he had the announcement, like, he's just terrible. So they found it in Andrade, so I just kind of feel like Andrade is untouchable right now. He is the face of their Spanish people division, whatever you want to call it, of the WWE. Humberto, I don't know a lot about him. I didn't even know he existed until he started doing spots on the main roster. I guess he was in NXT originally. And he's kind of like the equivalent to Sin Cara, who they thought Sin Cara was going to be it, and Mysterio. And you're right, he showed guts. I just don't understand. I mean, I understand why they didn't strip the title of him or anything like that, because, like I said, they want him to be the face of the division, and he's doing a hell of a job. And Zelina, I mean, I've met Thea a whole bunch of times in real life. She's awesome, and she's a hard worker, and she's just got the thing, man. She's got the same thing that AJ Lee had, she just has it. when it comes to the mic, and her personality and her presence and enhancing the male talent when there needs to be enhancing, and she can go too. So it was a great match. I'm glad he beat him up and he didn't walk away with his tail in between his legs, because they need that. They want that focus to get their demographics for, that type of nationality and stuff like that. So, and they're good guys. And it once again proves, just like Asuka has been proving, the Vince McMahon, I can't understand you in promos doesn't mean crap. As long as they're putting on a show and they're telling their storytelling through, their characters and their personality, it doesn't have to come down to language. So those are my feelings about it. I was in and out during the pre-show, so I didn't really catch their match. I caught the stuff on Monday Night Raw, and I liked the way that they executed it.
Yeah, I definitely agree to your point, Mary, that it's aimed at the Hispanic demographic, and they're definitely looking to try and fill the void that Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero have left behind. And I think that in a way, this Andrade suspension can be a blessing in disguise, because I think there was some teasing with the idea that Zelina could switch her loyalties over to Humberto when he was kind of getting in the way of Andrade and proving himself a little bit. And I think that they have a fantastic chemistry. So if they do return Andrade, I could see it being in some sort of capacity where they set up a tag team match at WrestleMania where you have Andrade and Humberto taking on Rey Mysterio and his son Dominic. I think there's a lot of different ways they can go with this. That would be my personal fantasy booking option. But I think that really Humberto and Andrade are kind of showing what it takes to be the ones to fill those shoes that, Ray and Eddie have left behind, to take that Spanish community and really involve them in the product. And I think that eventually they should expand out and not just be, Spanish Wrestler 1 versus Spanish Wrestler 2, but I think that will come with time. And I think that having that actual face-off with Rey Mysterio and maybe his son Dominic, having that kind of blow-off with those three will definitely do a lot of good for that. And then they can kind of move on and be a part of the regular picture. But I think that their chemistry has been fantastic, and every time you get those two in a ring, it ends up being a good match. So I think they're doing a lot of right things with what they did with this.
Yeah, I'm personally not a fan of Humberto Carrillo. This week kind of changed me a bit more in a positive direction, but I just really found him vanilla. And the matches are good, but I'm maybe just a sucker for good storytelling. I felt like a lot of it played way too much on just the nationality part of just pushing the Latino narrative. And that's great, and I like it. And I found that Rey Mysterio and Andrade had a lot of good matches. But I want something more to it than just nationalities colliding. There has to be a bit more meat to the storyline to draw me in. As for Andrade and the wellness policy, I think it is a good move by WWE, not stripping the belt off of him, because they do clearly have big plans for him moving forward into the future. I actually read today that Paul Heyman really likes Andrade and plans to push him even further. So aside from the fact that the match itself I wasn't too intrigued with and wasn't overly excited for, they have planted seeds to go in a whole lot of different directions for exciting storylines down the road.
They have, and I'm looking forward to what they have to bring to the table. And regardless of whatever reason that they're keeping Andrade the champion or pushing him, whether it's nationality or not, the fact is this guy can perform. This guy is the real deal inside the ring, and we all agree Zelina Vega adds just so much to his character. And I think I can say in unison that we are glad that, while they teased Zelina Vega and her loyalty being swayed, I am, at least anyway. I know I said the we collectively, but that they did not decide to split these two up. I think that they go together so well, and Zelina, what she adds to his character is just so much personality. She adds that element that it's that extra layer that he needs in order to get to that next level. He has somebody that can help him cheat to win. He's a heel. Zelina, in her own right, has a hell of a presence. AJ Lee is a great comparison. She just has that it. She can cut a promo better than half the women on the roster. She has the presence, the way she speaks, it's believable. Yeah, she's really good to look at, but you don't really think about that part of it, particularly because, and I also mentioned this at some point last week, that this is a professional relationship between Andrade and Zelina. This is not any kind of romantic relationship or teasing romantic relationship. This has been 100% business the entire time that they've been together, and I love that. I love that dynamic, that you're not even thinking that these two are secretly dating, right? No, I mean, we all know it's actually Charlotte, but in storyline world, you're thinking that. You're thinking that Zelina is truly interested in making sure that Andrade comes out on top. He does whatever he needs to win, and Zelina Vega is 100% invested every single move in a match. I mean, the camera pans to her every 30 seconds because it's worth seeing, because she is just such on the roller coaster of ups and downs with every move in the match. And Andrade, when he gets knocked down, she looks concerned. When he's about to win, she's, up in arms. I love her roller coaster of emotions. They're not overdone cartoonish. They're just perfect heel manager-ish, if that's a thing. And I love everything about it. These two I love where they could go. I think United States Championship is a place that he could live for quite some time, but I certainly could see him in the WWE title picture, maybe even a year from now. Maybe sooner, but probably a year from now. I think he'll be fully ready and fully developed into this WWE world to challenge for the WWE Championship. So I hate to keep doing this, but again, moving on.
Can I just chime in real quick? Going back, I think it was Zach who said it. The business aspects, like with Zelina, it's not a romantic thing. I truly believe that she could start like a faction, and be recruiting people. I don't know if she's going to betray Andrade, because she has been so loyal to him. So she could turn into, she's got the chops, man. She's amazing. Like you're saying, she could be like the next Missy Hyatt. She could be the next, Sunny. Who's to say that she doesn't start, gathering these people to dominate the whole entire, the roster at some point? That was just a quick thought while you were speaking.
I didn't think about that with her as a faction. Yeah, she could be a faction leader, no doubt. When's the last time we saw a women faction, like a legitimate, now I'm talking Riot Squad, that doesn't count, like a legitimate women's faction that I don't know the last time that's been done. I'm talking legitimate.
I'm not even talking about women, though. I'm talking about a woman manager having guys. She could do it, like you're saying. Like she adds so much to Andrade's character. She is Paul Heyman to Brock Lesnar, because there is a language problem sometimes, but it doesn't matter to me. I don't care about that stuff. I love Asuka screaming in Japanese at everybody. It makes me laugh. It shows that she's vicious. I think she's like part of the Yakuza when she does it. But I'm just saying, having a woman have, her guys, and she is Paul Heyman to Brock Lesnar to Andrade. It's the same thing. She's a mouthpiece, and I really feel that she could do that if she wants to, instead of going after all these Spanish guys, except the old guard like Mysterio and what have you. Start getting all the Spanish guys together and have her clientele, because she is the business manager. Just quick thought.
Yeah.
And to your point too, Mary, that's kind of the thought process that I have behind the Humberto, joining forces with Zelina, because you could see that kind of spark in her eyes of thinking of recruiting him. And I think exactly what you were saying, having a stable would suit her so well, because she is such a good mouthpiece. And to your point too, Anthony, I do feel that Humberto has been rather vanilla. He's kind of been the hang around the faces and, oh yeah, I agree with that point. He doesn't really chime in or have any personality to him yet. He just kind of does what a face should do without any real rhyme or reason to where he's building to. So having him have a heel turn and join Zelina and maybe attack Mysterio and Dominic or something like that instead of helping, I think that would be a brilliant way to evolve his character and to evolve Zelina's involvement in the roster and really lead to something bigger and better for everybody involved.
All right. Well, if you guys are satisfied on that point, which is a good point, I honestly, thinking about that, I never thought of Zelina as a stable leader, but that is hey, Zelina, there's more to Zelina than what's on the surface right now. I don't think we've seen her full potential yet. And if she, I think it wouldn't do her, it would do her a disservice if she remains for her career as just the manager to Andrade. I want more from her, even if it's as the women's champion, right? I mean, even if she becomes a women's champion on SmackDown or Raw at some point, I could see that. She can go in the ring. I don't think that she is as, I guess, polished, if you will, as like Becky or Charlotte, as some of the top women, but she certainly, I'd love to see her as champion and then maybe even have a stable of her own. But if she's going to be the mouthpiece for a stable of the Hispanic men or whatever, maybe they call them La Familia. Wasn't that like something Eddie Guerrero did, was La Familia? And that's ringing a bell with me. So yeah, she could definitely do something like that. There is so much untapped potential there that if they don't dig into what she's truly capable of, they're missing the boat, because there's so much sitting there. And Andrade's reaping the benefits right now. He's good in his own right, but without Zelina, he feels naked out there. There have been times when Zelina's been either injured or just not there, and he comes down to the ring and you're like, oh, like this doesn't feel right. Where's Zelina? And you don't normally feel that with a manager. Like, I mean, not a great comparison, but when Lio Rush wasn't there with Bobby Lashley, it was like, right? I mean, you don't care as much. But so anyway, moving on, and I really want your guys' thoughts on this too, is Roman Reigns and King Corbin with a Falls Count Anywhere match. My quick thoughts on this is, I mean, like, I said on Twitter that it was a hard-hitting match, that it was a very physical match. It was kind of what you expected, but I feel like it was just another SmackDown match. Like, it didn't hold a whole lot of weight to it. There wasn't really much on the line. And yeah, you had the predictable interferences with Dolph Ziggler, Robert Roode, and the Usos, so that was really no shocker there. Eventually, Roman gets the spear for the victory, and hopefully this program is over. I would think that it is. This one didn't stand out to me as like, oh my God, I put this in the top 3, not even close. To me, and it wasn't a terrible match. It was just kind of like, it felt like a SmackDown rerun.
I gotta disagree with you for once. I felt it was an actual Falls Count Anywhere match. Like, they've held back so many times on these gimmick matches where they don't, go full throttle. I liked how they used the arena. They were in a baseball stadium, so it wasn't like it was just backstage and somebody getting popcorn thrown at themselves or stupid stuff that they've done in the past. They legitimately, went through the arena. They were using, the tarps. I made a Houston Astros joke during the pay-per-view. I was like, who's going to start banging on garbage cans? Topical humor. I liked it. I thought it was good. I thought it was a good grudge match. I don't know if this is the end of it. I hope it's the end of it, because, like, I'm so wishy-washy with this Baron Corbin thing, because he's doing exactly what he's supposed to be doing. Like, I can't stand him. He's annoying. The dog food thing was just grinding my gears. And then, like, CM Punk came out and said that he liked it because it was, like, traditional fucking old – oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to curse. Traditional old-school wrestling. But, like, I don't know. I liked it. I thought I mean, we knew the Usos and we knew Dolph and Bobby Roode were getting involved. But it added to it, and it's adding to that stable that I've been pushing for months with the Usos and Reigns, and despite them not being heels, that they have the bloodline, and them getting, all the Samoan people together, and you could throw Naomi in there too if you wanted to. Another, even though she's not Samoan, she's married into the family. I love that aspect. I think that him being with the Usos on a regular basis, and the Usos are the Usos. They're a solid tag team. They're awesome. They have great spots. Granted, outside of they've had some problems, but like whatever, their favorites, their legacy. It really adds to Roman's redemption story. Like, it takes away from the fact that he was sick and he came back, and we're not using that as, oh, that's why we like him now. He's like part of something that's bigger than him, and it's not just the focus of him, because he can't just focus on him when the Usos are involved, because what are they, 6-time champs, 7-time champs? Like, I don't know. They might be a tag team forever, but, you know, maybe they couldn't do solo runs. But I feel like the three of them together, it feels better. You're invested in it because you want to see like this family storyline and them having backs. And like now that the Shield is like completely, you know, obsolete because Dean Ambrose is gone, and that was Reigns' brother. You know, Seth Rollins has always been shaky with everybody because he was the traitor, he was the Judas. But I don't know. I loved the match. I thought it was good. I thought it was a good Falls Count Anywhere match. I love, like, there was the one spot, I don't remember where it was, where they were out in the arena and they went through like some kind of table, and I screamed like, holy yes. Like, I was invested in the match, and Corbin has this just grating thing where you want to see him get beat, even by Roman Reigns. Even if you don't like Roman Reigns, Baron Corbin has been a good dance partner with him because you actually hate Baron Corbin more than you hate Roman Reigns, despite whatever you think about Roman Reigns.
Yeah, and I agree with a lot of your points about Roman and about the Usos, Mary, but I do kind of tend to fall more on the side of Matt with this one as far as the match itself goes. And I don't think that it's anything about the match itself that was particularly bad. I think it's just the feud itself was so poor and the build-up was so poor, and it really did make a lot of sense as a grudge match and having it be the blow-off, but it just didn't feel like there was any build to it. And I think maybe, too, it also was a little bit of the syndrome of being on the Royal Rumble card. It felt so lesser, and maybe if it was on a different pay-per-view, it would have felt like a bigger deal. But having this Falls Count Anywhere match, which was done very well, and they did a lot of great spots and used the arena quite nicely, I just felt like the whole time that I didn't feel invested in it. And I think that's exactly where the disconnect comes, and I think where a lot of people are kind of ignoring the match quality, which was very good, because WWE kind of forced our hand and made us not like it because the build-up was so bad. I'm completely agree with you too, Mary, about I understand that Baron Corbin is supposed to be a heel and I'm supposed to hate him, but I just can't seem to get invested in him versus Roman Reigns anymore, and it's a lot to do with his character, and I think they need to find a fresher way rather than just having him kind of poke the bear with the bigger fish in the sea, and I think that it's just time that, you know, they find a way to reinvent Baron Corbin, and I really hope and pray that this is the end of the feud and this is where it all ends.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't mind the match. It was okay. I was expected that Roman Reigns would go over. I lean more on the side with Matt as well here, and you, Zach, in the sense that it did just kind of feel like a main event of SmackDown. It was a very good match, but the payoff did kind of fall flat a bit. I do think it's undisputedly the end of their feud and their program, because if you realize they didn't even have an interaction in the Rumble. I think Corbin was out by the time. I think they are officially done with it. You know, as a whole, I didn't mind this program between the two of them. I feel like Baron Corbin is slowly starting to find his own here. But I hope that it's not a one and done with him. You know, we've seen it many times where, like, you know, they push a guy heavily and then that's it and good night the lights. I think that there's a place for Corbin beyond Roman Reigns. I thought maybe if he could get back in the scene of the Intercontinental Championship picture. But, I mean, all in all, I wasn't, you know, enthralled with the match. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't something that I was expecting after months and months to be the payoff.
Wow. So, we agree or disagree on some of these opinions, which is good. And Mary seems to definitely be the protagonist in terms of liking this match much more than the rest of us did. But again, I think it's because maybe that the rest of the Royal Rumble was so damn good also. When we look back in retrospective, you know, when you stack the matches up, this one is just kind of like, it's kind of ho-hum. And I understand that, you know, this is truly a Falls Count Anywhere match. It certainly was. And they lived up to that stipulation, no doubt. But it kind of also made Roman Reigns, while he did win, the fact that he had the ability to make any stipulation in the world, and he decides, with all the interference that he's been dealing with over the past few months, he decides to have a Falls Count Anywhere match in which he could be outnumbered easily, even if the Usos come to his aid. Baron Corbin's got a lot of other men at his disposal. instead of deciding to say, hey, let's put ourselves in a cage match where it's just you and I and there can be no interference. And yeah, there can be interference in cage matches, but at least the logic would be there to not make him look like a doofus for basically making the stipulation that would open him up to be the most exposed to outside interference. But nonetheless, it was an okay match, and I think that they have moved on, and the real test here is going to be for Roman Reigns as a babyface. He has now eliminated Edge from the Royal Rumble. Again, Edge was really meant to go into a program with Randy Orton, which we've now seen, and that's fine. But I don't know. If I was WWE, I'd be starting to be a bit concerned about this Roman Reigns babyface character that they've done so well with over the last year of mitigating boos, with him eliminating Edge. He's now out of the program with Baron Corbin. He gets into the program presumably with The Fiend. We haven't seen it. Again, I hate that it's still presumption. But where does Roman Reigns go after this program into, from somebody that the crowd organically and truly dislikes of Baron Corbin into somebody maybe that isn't as disliked? Does the Roman Reigns factor, does the Roman Reigns fever or sickness come back to the fans and they say, oh yeah, this is why I don't like this guy. That's right. He was with Corbin for a while out of the title picture, doing his own thing, comes back from cancer. Yay, everyone's happy for him. And then he gets shoved into a program with somebody, maybe The Fiend, or maybe a month or so away from that. But maybe the feelings are starting to come back, and we're contracting the coronavirus and going, hey, this is why we don't like Roman Reigns. Could you see maybe some regression in crowd response? We'll get our answer maybe Friday night, but what do you guys think? I think you muted yourself, Mary.
It keeps remuting me. I'm sorry. I don't know how to use the computer. It's 2020. There's a couple of things. Like, as far as the card goes, I still think the Bayley match was worse than this match. The Bayley match did absolutely nothing for me.
Agreed.
My personal opinion, as much as Lacey Evans has kind of grown in the last couple months, she was still super sloppy. It was really quick. And I knew that Lacey wasn't going over. Like, there was no way that Lacey was winning that title. And that's why, like, the whole Sasha thing that we talked about earlier was just, preposterous. Like, I was just dumbfounded because I didn't know where she was. As far as Roman with the babyface stuff, it's like, now that we got Drew McIntyre, I think there's more leg room for if this faction continues with the Usos, for him to go heel. I mean, it goes back to CHT, the Cena heel turn. I know everybody wants it and it's never happened, but they've kind of found somebody in Drew McIntyre where they don't really need. That's why, like, this whole you guys talking about Fiend and Roman Reigns, I know that, like, he hasn't been, like, in the main event picture. I know he's a main eventer, but he hasn't been in the title picture. They kind of drew him back because they knew they damaged him so much, and they're rebuilding him up. But now they have this Drew McIntyre thing going on, and, like, everything changes on a fly. Like, look at Daniel Bryan. He is the best example of all of this. They tried so hard to get the crowd not to like him. Now I feel like you got Drew McIntyre doing this thing right now where people are behind him and they did it right. They did it right. And the crowd is hot for him. I don't know where Roman goes from here. I don't know where Daniel Bryan goes after the Fiend thing, too. And Daniel Bryan is now, again, one of the top baby faces. I don't necessarily think that there isn't wiggle room, and especially because now you're starting to see this Rumble totally showed Paul Heyman's hands in it, and now you have Paul Heyman in the picture. So I don't know. I don't know where Roman's going, but I still think that, the Usos have that gimmick going on where they're kind of fan favorites, but at the drop of a dime, they are able to be the bad guys because of their persona and how they act. So who's to say that, like, Roman finally doesn't give in to the dark side? I don't know where they're going with him. This is me being conspiracy theory Mary, which we won't even talk about my predictions, but, I see a lot of movement for this. I think this was the blow off. I don't think the Corbin thing is going to go on anymore. But now what do you do with Roman? And if it is the Fiend, again, I just don't see it because he just hasn't been involved in that scene. And if he does get involved with him, I just feel like it's kind of like the safe choice. Like, oh, well, Roman's, the fighter and all that stuff. So I have mixed opinions about it. But now that they have other people emerging, kind of picking up that torch that are better, because Roman still gets a meh reaction. I mean, it's better than it was. I mean, I was watching 2015 Rumble, and the boos, woo, when it started, and it didn't stop until he got sick, which is unfortunate. But I think there's a lot of wiggle room to put Roman in something else, but I don't know exactly what it is. But that's, my opinion, my outtake, my fantasy booking, what have you. I think there is room, if he sticks with the Usos, for them to kind of become a dominant, heel faction.
Yeah, and I can completely agree with that. I could definitely see them going that direction. There's one particular video I saw a while back of, it was the Usos and Roman in a very clearly inebriated state, and seeing him actually be organically Roman and having a personality was great. It was nice to see him not be this kind of forced superhero, and I think that leaning into the heel turn and allowing him to actually be himself more is the right direction to go. And I think there's tons of programs they could run. I think everything that happened in the Royal Rumble seemed to have a particular reason behind it, and I know that there were some changes towards the end of it with AJ Styles getting injured, but I really feel like Roman Reigns eliminating Edge was a calculated move, and I see them eventually facing off in a basic way of, taking the face energy, the crowd loving Edge returning so much, and using that to really, blow off this heel turn for Roman and really make it as effective as possible. And I think that perfectly will lead into a potential Fiend matchup at WrestleMania and make it make a lot more sense and kind of start to shift the pieces around so it seems to be a little bit more sensical, and you could have the Fiend play off of him trying to heal not to be have a pun there, but try to heal the heel Roman and try and make him back into the babyface he was. So I think there's a lot of room there for this to grow, and I think that it definitely makes a lot of sense to finally pull the trigger on the Reigns heel turn.
Everything you guys said would be awesome, and I'm sure Matt would agree with it. I think he opens the show with him saying, "Why don't they turn Roman heel already?" But it's not going to happen. And, aside from the fact that we just know Vince McMahon is stubborn, that he'll keep him there, just look at the SmackDown roster. Who's the next babyface that could possibly challenge the Fiend for the belt? Braun Strowman? I don't think he's close to that. They've already done Daniel Bryan. The Miz just turned heel. Who could it be? The answer is Roman Reigns. It's unfortunate, but it seems like they are on an inevitable collision course together, just based on the fact that there are no top-level babyfaces on SmackDown for the Fiend to go up against beyond Roman Reigns. Maybe in time they could build a Mustafa Ali up there, and maybe Braun Strowman could get back to that level. But, especially given the fact that Kofi Kingston is back and in my opinion, rightfully back in the tag team title picture, I just don't see any way around beyond Roman Reigns and the Fiend locking up at WrestleMania, let alone a Reigns heel turn. I think that, they tested the waters at Royal Rumble, and he would have gotten heavily booed had he been the winner, but I don't think that that's going to change the course that he is on with the Fiend at WrestleMania, and probably is going to ultimately end up winning the Universal Championship.
I've just kind of devoid myself of pretending that WWE is going to turn him heel again, ever, because the fact is that they have had a zillion awesome opportunities, and I've been booking him heel for the last 5 years since really Rumble of 2015 in Philly. And ever since then, imagine if he had that night come out after he won the Rumble, stood on the second rope, they called an audible, and he just flipped off the crowd. Imagine the heat. It would have been nuclear heat, right? It would have been, Monday Night Raw after he beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania 33 heat, where they just basically said, F you, Roman, all that stuff, and he stood there for 15 minutes, and the crowd buried him. And again, I'm not even going to go down that road. I've been down the road so many times, I feel like I've made the road and paved it. I'm done with it. until it actually happens, I'm not going to believe it. If it happens, I will, first of all, I'm going to applaud them. But second of all, I'm going to say, you know how much money you missed out in the last 5 years, right? Like, okay, you're doing it, but is it too little too late? So anyway, we have a couple more matches.
Can I chime in real quick?
Sure.
Okay, so if Roman and Wyatt are an inevitable battle at WrestleMania, and I'm not, again, you guys could be 100% right, and I would not say I was wrong. Why is the ultimate thing that Roman's gonna win? Like, who's to say they don't keep going with Wyatt? And and what has happened with every opponent that Wyatt has faced? Have they turned?
They've changed. Other
So
than Daniel
who's
Bryan.
to say that isn't the angle that they are running at?
It could be. I mean, that would be genius. Look. That seems to be
I'm
implied.
sorry, not to cut you off again. I can't believe that Roman is going to. I mean, again, I've been wrong about Roman a zillion times, but I can't see that Roman is the guy to defeat the Fiend. I don't see it. I can see them having a WrestleMania match. I can see them having a title defense. That's sure. But wouldn't it make more sense that, like, everybody's been pushing for this, and if they're listening to people and it seems right now that they're doing smart things, every guy that guy has faced has turned the opposite of what they were. So it's a perfect opportunity for them to turn Roman if he loses to the Fiend at WrestleMania. And opponents for the Fiend, you have Aleister Black, who could come out of nowhere if you're going the supernatural route. That guy knows about the occult. Maybe he'll go after him. And you still have The Undertaker, even though we don't want to bring that up. Okay, I'm done.
Good observation, though. The Fiend that has been kind of the side effect of facing the Fiend. Everyone has changed. Even Daniel Bryan has said, and he has changed too. I mean, that's where he got his first real babyface, return to babyface program. And yeah, we knew with Finn Balor, obviously that was well documented where he turned heel, right? And so that could be the ultimate destination for WWE, because fans right now, the overwhelming belief is that it is Roman. It's the Fiend. It's at WrestleMania and it's for the championship and Roman wins. Well, maybe we get to Roman versus the Fiend, but the ultimate goal is to not have Roman win, but to maybe in a loss turn his character to the dark side. I mean, because that's what the goal of the Fiend is. And I don't know. What do you guys think about that proposition?
Yeah, go right ahead, Anthony.
Oh, sorry about that, buddy. Look, I think it would be fantastic. I don't think there is really a point, and I hope I'm wrong. I just don't see there being a point into even investing ourselves into such a storyline. I'd be willing to bet $100 Canadian on the fact that Roman Reigns will walk out of WrestleMania 36 as the Universal Champion. I think that it's taken Vince McMahon everything in his human power to hold back on putting the world title right back around Roman's waist when he returned about a year ago. Because remember, he relinquished the Universal Championship. He never actually lost it, and he had regained it and had only had it for about 2 months after not being world champion for almost 2 years. So I just think that the way they booked him over the last calendar year, very sheltered opponents. He returned last year forming with the Shield almost right out of the gate. Then he went up against Shane McMahon and was standing side by side with The Undertaker and had that feud for almost the whole summer. Then he had the whodunit angle, which ultimately he wound up at the side of Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan's never going to get booed, so more cheers behind Roman. And then he went up against Baron Corbin, who's arguably the most hated heel in the company right now, so he got cheered too. It just seems that it's been calculated booking by WWE and good booking, and to their credit, they've made a lot of progress with Roman Reigns by keeping him somewhat on the back burner out of the world title picture. But you just see the way that they've smartly booked him, got the crowd to kind of slowly but surely get more behind him, that I just can't see any other scenario of him not conquering the Fiend. Because, yeah, there's Aleister Black, but he's on Raw right now, but I'm sure they could bring him over in a Superstar shakeup or what have you. But I just don't see a way how Roman Reigns isn't world champion come post WrestleMania 36.
Yeah, and I can agree with you a lot on that, Anthony. I do see that that's kind of the direction that they're going towards, is eventually having Reigns have the belt again, because like you said, they kind of have sheltered him back, or the Fiend rather sheltered back, and I think that in this case, it makes a lot of sense to build it, but I think because of what WWE has been doing more recently, the trend of kind of switching away from popular belief, as a lot of people had Roman Reigns predicted as the winner. The plans were originally to have Roman Reigns be the victor here. I think that kind of spells to them building towards something a little bit bigger than just the obvious. And I think that if they do kind of finally pull the trigger on the heel turn, that it would make sense, because really this idea of trying to make the Fiend a heel hasn't worked either. So, leaning into that a little bit and saying, okay, we're going to completely switch the roles on you before WrestleMania, and we're going to have you, cheering for Bray Wyatt, maybe trying to lean into healing people as opposed to hurting them now, or, maybe he comes out as Sweater Bray Wyatt, or, Mr. Rogers Bray Wyatt, however you want to term that side of him. But I could definitely see them going a lot of different ways to kind of go away from the obvious. And I think a lot of people have it predicted, like you said, that Roman Reigns is going to walk out of there with the belt, which could definitely still feels like the right move, and maybe not the right move, but kind of the writing on the wall. So I think if they switch up the roles, it'll make it a lot more interesting before then.
All right, well, what I'd like to do is just touch on these last two matches, and then I'll give you guys a chance to talk about anything else maybe we didn't want to or didn't cover in terms of the Rumble, and any other final thoughts. But the last two matches, I'm grouping them together because the one match, honestly, with Lacey Evans and Bayley is not really worth too much of a discussion, because it was just kind of a by-the-numbers type of match. It was very standard. It kind of felt like kind of a bit of a break in terms of the pacing of the show. That's not to say this was a bad match. Like, there were no real bad matches on this show. I don't think there was one. But this one wasn't really particularly exciting. Bayley wins, and I think that's still the right move. Some people thought that it was, Lacey Evans' time, and they are certainly heavy-handing this military connection, and she's a mom, so we're all supposed to relate with her. And I'm starting to come around to her character. It's taking some time, but again, I don't have a whole lot to say about that match other than right booking, just kind of a average match. It was what it was, and Bayley came out on top, as she should have. And then the other match was Becky Lynch versus Asuka. That match, I loved it. That really was, to me, clearly the superior women's match of the show, outside of the Rumble, of course. But Becky Lynch here, she collected her debt, as she said. She had Asuka tap out. As Asuka was about to dispense the green mist, she kicks her. The mist goes all over Asuka's face, of which apparently she's immune and didn't really react to. Nonetheless, we had Becky Lynch tap her out. There were some great spots in that match. These two, anytime that they want to give them 20 minutes to go, it's going to be a good day in the ring. I loved it. I think that these two tore it up. Becky Lynch winning was the right move. It would have made no sense to drop the belt to Asuka, who's also the women's tag team, half of the women's tag team champions. So the right move here, but it certainly got me emotionally invested. Asuka, to me, is doing some of the best work she's done since she dropped the belt last year to Charlotte inexplicably on SmackDown. We all know how I feel about that before WrestleMania, and then didn't give a damn. So to me, this is the best that she's been position-wise. She feels more comfortable on the mic. I'm actually getting a little bit charmed by her yelling in Japanese every week. It's weird, even though I don't understand her. She's just so cartoonish and over the top. She's so bad that she's good on the mic. It's weird. I don't know how to feel about it. In the ring, there's no question she's off the charts. But just performance-wise on the mic, she's just so bad it's good. And I think she's reached that level. And she seems more comfortable, too. So, again, Becky and Becky and Asuka certainly tore it up. And then Lacey and Bayley kind of just there. What did you think, Mary?
I agree with like most of everything you said. The Bayley Lacey match came off like it felt like a filler match to me, and I know it was for the world title, but it just kind of felt like a rest match for everything else that was going on the card. It was it was a good match. I'm not saying it wasn't. It was just the bottom match for me. I like that they changed Lacey's character. It's working better for her going the military route and being the mom, because I didn't want to pay attention to her whatsoever when she was doing the heel gimmick. And Bayley's Bayley, like it was a good match, but it wasn't, the show stealer of the show. Becky Asuka was awesome. I love the kick and the miss going into the air. And I also like that, even though she lost to Becky, I wanted her to win. I thought she was going to win because I thought that was going to be the end of the title reign for Becky. Obviously, it's coming after Mania. Who knows? But I just like the fact that she lost, and the next night she was on Raw and she was challenging, Charlotte and trying to pay her dues, that like she basically, even though you couldn't understand her in Japanese, she was basically saying, you screwed me out of my stuff last year, and that wasn't right, and I would have beaten you if I was in the Rumble, because she won the Rumble, and then, didn't they end up having a triple threat with her? Like, she didn't really get, like, her shot, or Rousey came out, and it completely, disregarded her win. So, I enjoyed the match. I thought it was a really good match on both of them. I liked everything about it, but I really like that it wasn't just like, oh, Becky beat her and now she's getting thrown to the side and she's not being taken seriously as a serious hitter in the women's division, and they still have her right there with Charlotte.
Yeah, I agree with you on a lot of points there, Mary. I think that ultimately, on the first match side of things with Lacey Evans versus Bayley, I felt like really to sell the face turn of Lacey Evans, I felt like this was the right time to pull the trigger and maybe set up a potential Mania feud that had a slow burn between Bayley and Lacey, with her taking the belt and going this face route and kind of, being the polar opposite of Bayley's story, where she's going heel and she became champion. Having Lacey Evans turn face and become champion would be kind of this good contrasting storyline to build upon to Mania, but not having her win the belt here, it just kind of feels like, well, she tried, but she couldn't beat her. And although, it was some cheating involved and things like that, I felt like it just fell really flat because there had no reason to really be invested. You felt like Bayley was going to come out the victor, and she did, because it was kind of too short of a feud to have it go any other way. But I think, with her momentum turning face, I think they've squandered a lot of the momentum Bayley had when she turned heel. So I thought that they would have kind of learned and tried to pull the trigger a little bit more with Lacey Evans. So I would have liked to have seen her walk out as champion, but I understand why not. And I think it ended up kind of being a poor match. I wouldn't even go as far as to say it was that good. It just didn't. It felt very out of place on an otherwise very good card. But on the polar opposite of that, again, would be the Asuka and Becky match, which I thought really tore it down. And, to your point too, Matt, with Asuka on the microphone, it reminds me a lot of Tajiri when he was doing his run in the WWE, and, of course, sharing the Green Mist as a parallel there too, which is, he does it. It feels like she has no reason to need to speak it, and it's like she's above it, and it kind of helps sell that heel side of her too. So I thought this match between them was excellent. I thought, like you said, Mary, the finish with the kick to the gut and the mist was excellent, and I just think that they're doing a lot of right things with everything, but I think that Asuka is someone that they've kind of gotten wrong in a lot of ways, but this match was very good, and I think that they should continue to build something towards her getting a title in the very near future, however they can achieve that.
Yeah, both of these matches, well, obviously the Lacey Evans-Bayley one fell flat. It was not the worst thing, and I really like Lacey Evans, so I'm kind of being a bit biased, but it wasn't anything more than a placeholder match. And while the Asuka and Becky match was significantly better, it still just felt like a placeholder match for waiting for Becky to get engaged in bigger and better things. I found they did a really good build to the Becky and Asuka match. contrary to the one on the SmackDown side of things. I'm interested to see where they go beyond this for both championships. I think it was the payoff for both championships, with both women's champions retaining the titles clean. I'm hoping on the SmackDown side of things it's Alexa Bliss, and I think it may be almost set in stone that will be Shayna Baszler on the side of Raw. So I'm anxious to see where they go beyond these feuds from now.
I am too, and I hope Alexa Bliss gets more of a prominent position. She had a nice showing at the Royal Rumble, which was promising. And like you said, I mean, she was the face of Raw not too long ago, and obviously Ronda Rousey came and dethroned her pretty quickly. But I think, Alexa Bliss, it's time to kind of position her more as an actual main event, consistent main event star, because she is just that. I'm tired of the 5 Feet of Fury, and I remember when she first was called up, they were kind of just knacking on her for her height, and it's like, come on, guy. I mean, even the announcers were talking about she's only 5 feet and 5 feet of Fury. I don't need that. And so, nonetheless, I think that Alexa Bliss is in for a potentially big 2020 year, and I hope that she is. But so I think we all are kind of in agreement on the Becky Lynch and Asuka match. Tore it down. Certainly was the star of the women's show, other than the Rumble. But yeah, Bayley and oh my gosh, I'm like losing it because it's so late. Lacey, jeez, sorry guys. Like my bedtime is like usually right around now, but that's okay. It's Rumble review time. So Lacey is a woman that is really, they're trying to transition her into this believable and relatable, and they hit all this military stuff from the audience, at least on a on-air type of presentation, because they were trying to get the military background to obviously use that as a we'll talk about this when you turn babyface. Makes total sense, right? I mean, you don't want to boo a veteran typically. So anyway, I think there is a big year also involved for Lacey Evans, and I think this was a test for her at the pay-per-view, and I think that she somewhat passed the test. She is not the greatest in-ring performer of all time, but she's still somewhat new. She's a little bit green. That's fine. And it takes time to get into the, feel out your chemistry with your opponent. And if she had more matches down the line with Bayley, they should, in theory, and in using your logic, should be better. So we'll have to see about that. We'll have to see if Lacey just kind of fades into the background after this. Certainly Friday night on SmackDown will tell us whether or not that she's going to remain in the title picture, or just kind of goes by the wayside and we get some new contenders, which I kind of think is more likely to happen. So any final comments on the women before we move on? All right. Well, so I'll just kind of open up the floor then. Is there anything that maybe you guys wanted to expand upon, or that I didn't touch on, or any kind of final thoughts on the Rumble and Raw from last night?
Well, obviously the Edge and Randy Orton storyline going forward. I mean, that's the biggest thing that happened in the last 48 hours other than the Rumble. So what's your thoughts on it, Matt?
Oh, all right. Well, my thoughts are, I liked it. What I really loved was not just Randy Orton and his just the way that he did it so methodically, and him teasing getting rated RKO back, which is kind of ironic, by the way, that Edge is the rated R superstar in a PG television environment, right? So he's kind of like the neutered rated R superstar, the wannabe, right? Because it just doesn't make sense. But I love the nickname. I love everything about Edge. So I love the way that Randy Orton came down. He teased the reunion and gave him a hug, and then boom, RKO, puts him down, and then he took his time getting the chair, positioning the chair, and then eventually, you're thinking, oh, someone going to come out and save him, someone going to come out and save him. Nobody comes out and saves him, which is kind of, I don't know. I'm fine with it because you have to put a program together for these two, but it's from turn like logically, like there's no one backstage, and Randy Orton's taking his time, and he has a triple fusion neck surgery. No one's going to come out to potentially save him. Whatever. I'm not getting on that point, but I love the way that they presented this. Randy Orton hitting the concerto on Edge, Edge, the way that he sold it, this is the other part of it. The facials from Edge when he first got RKO'd was like, what just happened? And you're concerned about his neck. He looked like he was concerned about his neck. It's almost as if you could read through his eyes of what his thoughts were. I loved it. I think this is a great first program for Edge. From what I'm reading, he's signed a 3-year contract with WWE. I think he's in it for the long haul. He could have a resurrected Michaels career of what Shawn Michaels did in 2002, coming back. I hope that's the case. I loved his promo, though, at the beginning, saying I wanted to end this on my terms. I didn't want to go through my life saying, what if? Everything was done right. Edge reminded us that he is what he says he is. And I loved everything about this segment. I mean, I can't say enough about it. It put instant heat on Randy Orton, a guy that has been getting over even as a heel because of his RKO. I think that's going to finally change now that you have Edge on the other side of the coin with this program. So I'm looking forward to this. Do I think this is going to lead all the way to WrestleMania? It could. I would love to pair Edge up with Seth Rollins, but if this leads all the way to WrestleMania, there's a lot to pull from. There's a ton of history with these two. So, I don't know. I'd give the ending of this an A+ all the way around.
Everything you said was spot on. Even though Edge was clearly cleared to be in that ring, he was in the Rumble. I mean, he was doing spears, and he's in the best shape of his life. I mean, he's a little grayer, like you said, but he looked fantastic on Sunday night. It was the most unsettling thing I've watched on professional wrestling in a long time. Like, I was invested. I knew everything was okay, and they wouldn't be doing this to him if he could legitimately, like, get injured or re-hurt his neck or his spine or anything like that. But I had my hands over my face, over my nose and my hands the whole time I was watching it, and I was just uncomfortable watching it, and I was screaming at the TV going, Randy, don't do it, And we all know that Randy is that snake, and that's what he does, and I don't know what Randy's reasoning is going to be when he comes out and says it. I mean, sometimes he doesn't give an answer for his actions. It could be jealousy that he stole the spotlight, and that, like, he's gotten all these accolades since he's retired and he's a Hall of Famer, but, Randy's the legend killer. It's the first real, we've been talking about Randy being good the last couple of months, and when he's good, he's compelling, and sometimes he's just one of those filler or in stop pause mode, or, you don't really know what they're doing with him, but when they put him in this villain role and they give him a dance partner that he wants, he can literally make you hate him on the drop of a dime. And, like, even when he was holding him and kind of coddling him, that he hated himself for doing this because this was his best friend that dragged him out of the lowest ditch he was in his life when Randy was having all those problems. It was just, it was perfecto. It was A+. There's no better person for Edge to come back to the WWE and revise his career with, other than old guard, and that's Randy Orton still, even though, Randy's really never been out with injuries and stuff like that. It's kind of, I'm just happy, but this is the most compelling storyline that I think Randy has had since when he was doing the punk kicks to people's heads. And I just wanted to praise it on both of them. It was good, and Edge was like, let's do it and let's sell it, and he did. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I completely agree to your points too, Mary. I think that, everything that they've done with this storyline has been great, and I think that it's really a program with a lot to build upon, as you said, Matt. And I think that it's something that is very, although it's using older stars, it feels very much like forward progress for WWE in a lot of ways, where it's giving us a lot of what we want, in the sense of we wanted Edge to return in a big way and have a big something big to come back to. So, and like you said too, Mary, about the stop and go nature of Randy Orton, giving him a big person to go after. Just felt like all the right moves, and I think that that can be said a lot about the forward progress leading off of Royal Rumble. I think that they're leaning towards a lot of really great things, and it's very encouraging stuff, and it's always the best time of year going into Mania, but it feels like they're making a lot of the right moves, which I think is the biggest takeaway for me from the Rumble and this episode of Raw.
Yeah, I just think Randy Orton is a good guy to pair Edge up with to, break him back into things. They have a history to play off of. Randy Orton's basically a ring general in there, could have a 5-star match with a broomstick, so he can help Edge along if there is any ring rust, even though it didn't seem to be the case at the Rumble. And, to your point, Matt, they could, not string this out to WrestleMania and have Edge, just have Randy Orton be a stepping stone for Edge on the way to WrestleMania. I think they have 2 pay-per-views between now and then, so a lot of things can happen. All I know is that this is a good a good program for these two to get involved in with one another, and I'm really excited to see where they go with it.
Yeah, I am too. And, I'm thinking back to what the reasoning could be, what we'll hear from Randy, and, well, Edge got eliminated, or Orton got eliminated by Edge in the Royal Rumble. There's something there. There's also a comment that was made when Randy Orton feigned an injury a number of weeks ago to lure in AJ Styles ultimately to hit an RKO. He mentioned Edge in his promo that, I knew a guy, Edge, and he had to end his career, and he paralleled his speech to kind of Edge's from 9 years ago. So that was, I think, definitely by design for sure. So I'm well looking forward to this program. Do I want it to string out another 3 months, 10 weeks? Probably not. I mean, I'm not saying it wouldn't be a great program, but again, I'd love to see Seth Rollins with his group versus Edge. I think there's a lot there, but again, we're kind of fantasy booking given the fact that we don't even know what's going to be on the Super Showdown or the Elimination Chamber matchup. So this is all just kind of conjecture at this point, but I really think that this is going to be a program, regardless of where it ends or how quick it is or how long it is. It's going to be an enjoyable program. These are 2 professionals, one at the top of his game, one getting back into the game, but doesn't look like he's missed a step. This is going to be enjoyable all the way around. So any last thoughts on anything, guys, before we kind of ride off into the sunset?
I think I'm good. I'll bring up my conspiracy theories that got squashed another time.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, I think I covered just about everything on my end, too.
Awesome. Well, guys, this has been super enjoyable. This is awesome. I want to thank everybody for joining me, Zach, for filling in for Ashley, and maybe we can redo this for the WrestleMania show, or maybe make this a kind of an annual pay-per-view thing. We'll see, but this has been a lot of fun, and I want to thank you guys for staying up so damn late, or I don't really know what your guys' bedtimes are, but certainly devoting a significant amount of time to coming on and talking wrestling.
Thank you. I'm about to go get tacos. This isn't my bedtime yet.
Tacos?
Yes.
Oh, I'm jealous. Were you like Taco Bell tacos?
Yeah, Taco Bell. Taco Bell's like 7
yeah.
minutes from my house. That's what I'm doing right after this.
All right, well, I don't want to keep you from Taco Bell. But Anthony and Zach, thank you for popping on, and we will be in touch shortly as well. And definitely, Zach, thank you for your AEW reviews. You've been doing awesome. So thank you all the way around.
Thank you, Matt, and it was a pleasure working with you guys, and I definitely would love to get back on and do this again.
For sure. No, definitely. Like I said, maybe we'll make this more of a consistent thing. So stay tuned.
Yeah, it was really enjoyable talking to you guys. I'm so happy that we formally met through Skype tonight.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I know. Well, that's how you meet people now, right? That's how you meet. I actually met my wife on Match. And actually, it's funny. I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but we met on Match, but then on Tinder, we actually matched on Tinder at the same time, and she ignored me on Tinder, and I was like, what the hell? Why are you ignoring me? We laugh about that now, but she completely blew me off on Tinder, and I was like, hey, what are you doing? And she didn't respond. So we just laugh about it now, but we actually officially met on Match. So yeah, that's how you meet people now, right? So.
Yeah, that's funny. me and my fiance met through AIM first and then through Facebook. So, I mean, we've got pretty similar parallels going on there.
Oh, no way. AIM? Oh, my God.
Yeah, going really
funny.
throwback there when AIM was still the place to be when you were trying to meet people.
And you have when you put like a notification when your crush would come on. Mine was like a cash register or something. It's like, oh, she's online, right? You have away messages and stuff. Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, the good old days of the internet.
Oh, I know. The kids will never know today. They'll never know the struggles of flip phones and. Oh, God. All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a blast, and I will talk to all of you sometime down the line soon. And so thanks again, and enjoy the rest of your night. Enjoy your tacos, Mary.
I will. I'm going to get lots of tacos.
Bye, guys.
Have a good night, guys.
Good night.
You too. Good night.
Hey guys, so retirement may or may not be something that you're really thinking about, but even if you are years and years away, I mean, I'm 20 years away from retirement, but it's something that we should all be thinking about. There's a company that has retirement plans that you can invest in precious metals like gold, silver, and cryptocurrency. There's also a big opportunity to grow retirement and grow income for either your personal or a business. And anyone who signs up at this website receives a free investment kit and gift. So what is this website? It's brightmoneyinvestments.com. That's brightmoneyinvestments.com. You can diversify and grow with metals and cryptos, and you can even talk to someone there to get a better idea of what you should be investing in. So head on over to brightmoneyinvestments.com.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.